Right, this week's Coronation Street. Last week's Coronation Street pretty much is now, isn't it? We've got 8 stories to talk about, which seems like quite a lot, but most of it was Platts. This was almost all Platt all the time this week, wasn't it? With Max and Audrey.
It's the Platination.
It's because it's just had the Platinum Jubilee, isn't it?
It's the Platinum Jubilee!
Yeah, it is, that's it. Because we had the Odd Soak storyline first, where she got herself into a spot of bother. And then
Michael, you've got to make a Photoshop of this.
What, the Platinum Jubilee?
Yes!
Maybe if I have time I can
No, do it. Right, stop this podcast.
No.
Go and do that. It's funny.
Late enough.
We'll get, Michael, if you do that, we'll get at least 10 likes on
Twitter. You reckon? Oh, yes. It might be worth it then.
Yes.
Second storyline is Max drops his slacks because he's got into a bit of trouble for photographing parts of himself that he shouldn't have maybe done this week. Oh. Speaking of willies, Timpertency is our next storyline, followed by Game of Thorns, which I've just shamelessly stolen from Mr. Thorne, but it doesn't matter because he's wrong and you can steal from wrong'uns. Wendy Crozier, Ken Exposure is the best I can come up with the next one, because it seems like she's got some kind of secret on him. I don't think she does, but she doesn't like the idea of people knowing that
she knows what he gets up to in bed.
Oh yeah, she knows all of his
she knows what he makes her dress up as.
Yeah, maybe that is a Barlow thing. Daniel making
yes, that's right.
Nikki dress up as Sinead. Ken's going to make Wendy Crozier dress up as Deirdre.
Oh my God. He's like,
belt on, giant glasses.
Specs on and tell me you love me.
Right, that's
like
the storyline for this
summer,
sorted. Up next, we've got What a Load of Rubbish, which is the Maria storyline.
I'm getting kind of uncomfortable with how much Maria's being maligned for caring about the environment.
I know it's not good, is it?
But if I was to pick a figurehead for my environmental, March for Progress, I wouldn't pick Maria. Even though she wears green so beautifully.
Up next, we've got Brand New Brian, which is about 3 scenes on Monday where he's decided to have a bit of a...
He's got salmon-coloured trousers.
Well remembered.
I would never forget a fashion statement, Michael.
There are so many times where Summer's Robot would have things to say this episode. And then finally, Tully and the Bully is going to be our finishing off storyline for this week. Now, Gemma, you like a bit of booze, don't you? So
I can't say
Audrey Roberts is your spirit animal.
One way or the other.
She's your spirit granimal.
No, you're not allowed to say that.
So
I said that she's on my mood board for when I grow up.
Yeah, you want to be Audrey, old, rich and plastered.
Yes, old, rich and plastered. That
sounds like a programme, doesn't it? That's like a Channel 4.
Or like the name of my autobiography.
Keep that one.
Would that I live that long? That would be fantastic.
Keep it for 20, 30 years. Sorted.
20 years, I'm going to be old. How dare you?
Well, you'll be nearly 60, just saying. Not quite retirement.
That's not old. I'm going to be working till I'm 78, probably, knowing what pensions are up to. Right. God, can you imagine me, 78 years old, being useful at anything? I can't. I'm not useful at anything now. Monday. Platinum Jubilee. Shona is still trying to get Gail to get rid of the elephant statue, but Gail refuses because it's not cursed.
I don't know how much we talked about this week, I can't remember, but I'm enjoying this story, but I think the inclusion of the elephant statue is a little bit silly.
I don't know. I think...
Is it within Shona's post-shot-in-a-box persona to actually believe this elephant statue is cursed?
I'm going to say, I don't necessarily believe in cursed objects, although I would love to believe that things could be haunted, because that's cool.
As we know from your nan, you do have the ability
I've got the power
to
of
put
the
the
evil
curse on
eye,
people,
so
yeah.
I don't know if I can curse objects, but I can curse people. But I need to look them in the eye. That's the trouble, so it doesn't work on the internet.
Audrey's only got one good eye at the moment.
If something kept happening around an object, I might get rid of it.
It is a pretty horrible object as well, isn't it?
It's beautiful. I love elephants. Anyway.
Who is it that... Oh, it's Mum and Dad's friend Sheila that's got an elephant collection. She'd love it.
Are they cursed? Any of them cursed?
I don't know.
We should ask.
They have been in good health. Well, one of the things about Ralph and Sheila is they never get sick, according to Dad. So you never know. Maybe a lucky elephant.
Yeah, lucky elephant. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So
like Ganesh.
Can we talk about Gail?
Yes.
Gail asked Shona to look after Audrey, And Shona begrudgingly accepts on one condition, that she throws this elephant away. So Gail agrees to, and then as she's tossing it in the bin, along comes Captain Planet, aka Maria Connor, and tells her that she needs to dispose of it properly in the brass container at the tip. And they just give it to her. Like, well, there you go.
It's really bad, isn't it? Because the whole environmental storyline really is people making fun of Maria for talking about really important issues. It's a bit like Al Gore in South Park, isn't it? With the, what is it? Man-Bear Pig. Yeah,
Man-Bear Pig, and they're like, whatever. And then it turns out he's real.
Maria is totally Man-Bear Pig in this situation.
It is really sad, but I think it's kind of refreshing, and I wish that they would use this kind of approach in more, and I've said this before, more controversial issues that they're probably too scared to. I think the environment feels like a bit of a safer shot, you know, because it doesn't relate to a person.
This relates to all of us.
I know. I agree. I think it's really important, but
so
also, if I was trying to put something in the bin and somebody came over to me and they were like, I'd just go, here you go, you do it then.
Yeah.
Because we have a friend who comes over and he's always going on about the bin, isn't he? What do we put? Yeah. Our Charlie.
Our Charlie.
He's always like, oh,
down south.
How much do you what number plastic? It's like, no, you can't put any plastic in our bins. It's not my fault.
It just reminds me of that time when I went to have my school exchange in Germany when I was little, and they had the bin for the tea bag, a bin for the insides of the tea bag, and a bin for the little paper tag on the end of the tea bag. And this was like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I can't be doing
And
with
Michael,
this.
look.
But I bet the Maria would love Maria. I mean, the Germans would love Maria at the moment.
But can I just say, they've been doing that.
Super Maria.
How long have they been doing that for?
What?
20 years?
Yeah.
And look at the planet. Hasn't helped, does it?
No, but they do have Angela Merkel. She loves the environment.
She's going.
Maybe that's who Maria models herself on.
I would love Maria to become Angela Merkel.
Angela Maria-cle. That doesn't work.
But no, it's just, this is nonsense now.
We've got another storyline for Maria bashing later.
So, they give her this thing.
Yes.
And bugger off. Also, can I just say, if you take this brass elephant to the tip and you try to throw it away, the man that works there, I'm not being sexist, I've never seen a woman working at our local recycling centre, have you?
No.
The men who work there would just take it off you and sell it in their little thing.
£5.
For £5, which is the maximum they're allowed to charge you.
Yeah.
And then they pass the curse on. So Maria hasn't even thought this through, has she? And the other thing to say, it's all very well recycling, but what if you recycle a cursed object? Does it then become many cursed objects?
It could do, couldn't it? What do you cycle brass into?
Teaspoons.
Little bells.
Teaspoon collection. Yeah.
Now maybe a cursed brass bell, and when you play it, it like
summons a
Satan.
devil. Yeah. Or like a
Maria, what have you done?
Horse brass.
Yeah. We used to have little brass bells on our fire surround when we were little. They were horrible. Mum used to polish them.
Oh, all that work and you're just so dismissive. Right, later on, Shona is summoned to school, like she's the devil, and she has to give in a permission slip because some animals, I don't remember this, are coming to Lily's school.
Yeah. There's a little zoo day at Weatherfield.
That sounds bloody brilliant. Did we not get to see this?
No.
Audrey tells her...
We have that happen at our school sometimes, but they always go to the infant department. I never get to see them. Just a couple of months ago, we had this little mobile zoo come and didn't get to see it.
That's rubbish.
So, the infants are the ones that get to like raise the little baby chicks and the ducks and everything.
They didn't do any work, do they?
We had ladybirds once.
What the hell? oh, okay, all right. Audrey says, "Look, you go. I'll be fine." Gail gets home and Shona's back, but Audrey's not.
She's gone to the pub.
Gail can't believe Shona's let her alone like this. So I think this is like asking two toddlers to look after each other, isn't it? Gail finds Audrey knocking back the vino in the pub and they have a tussle with a bottle and it ends up with Gail pouring it all over her face.
Yeah, I didn't like this. This was there were bits of this story this week that I thought was genuinely funny, most of which happened on Wednesday, but I didn't enjoy the Gail and Audrey tussle because they're both, you know, mature ladies, and seeing them having a weak little tussle, which was just end in Helen Worth going, "Oh no," and pouring the bottle all over herself, didn't work for me, unfortunately. Did you think?
Oh, I don't want to. I agree with you, but I don't
want to say it.
I don't know what's the point of us both. Like, no, you're wrong, Michael. It's hilarious. It's funny, and also Gail and Audrey are brilliant.
Okay. I do like Gail and Audrey, but that didn't work.
Gail has to give up on Audrey and goes and wipes the wine off herself, and her jumper was 10% cashmere. So understand.
That was funny when Gail was saying it's cashmere and Audrey's like, just 10%.
I love them. Rita comes in to sit with Audrey after hearing about from Gail what's happened, and so Rita and Audrey had a feud because Audrey backed into her car, right?
Yeah.
And everyone, I think we're supposed to have forgotten that, maybe.
Well, no, they also, when it was the Queen's birthday earlier in this year, they tried to make up and then they fell out again, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They talk about getting old, and Audrey's like, I hate it. I really hate it. And Daisy says, do you know what, ladies? You're not too old to have some fun. Let's get the tequila out. So she makes some tequila and lemonades. They get very sozzled. They head out. Rita drops Audrey off at number 8 because she's got to go and she needs to go in to make things up with Gail. But Audrey comes in and she's like, right, I'm going back to Grasmere Drive in a few days. I'm taking back control. So stick it up with your cashmere jumper or whatever.
That was a great end to the episode.
I do, yeah. I really, as you grow older as a person, you begin to realise that everything you were told about ageing is true and it will happen to you, despite you thinking that you'll be young forever. So I'm just on the cusp of really considering this for my own life. And so Audrey's story, even though I'm nowhere near as old as she is really resonating with me in a very tragic way.
It is the perfect story for Audrey, isn't it? Because out of all, there are lots of glamorous older people in Coronation Street, but Audrey has always been so young at heart.
Yes, she really has been, yeah.
And, and she is the character who refused to grow up in many ways, and she was...
She's like the Peter Pan of Weatherfield.
Yeah. She was all out kind of flirting and everything, and being the bad mum. She's a bit like the Eddie Monsoon, isn't she, from Absolutely Fabulous? And Gail's not exactly sappy, but, she was always... Yeah, just refusing to grow up. So this is perfect when she's faced with the inevitability of ageing.
Ugh, this is why we should be robots. Wednesday, Audrey's bashing on the pub door at opening time because they haven't opened it immediately. She wants to get in. Daisy lets her in. She starts boozing immediately. She tells Rita's there, and she tells her that Gail wishes she would just sit there with jigsaws and the radio on. That sounds like Peter Barlow's life.
Yeah,
and it also really shows you, doesn't it, like how important alcohol is to Weatherfield, because there are two ways of being. There's either boozing it up in the pub, or you're an alcoholic, you have to sit at home with a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, they probably got the idea off Peter, didn't she?
Probably. Rita's like, why don't you get back to work if you want your life back? And she's like, yeah, all right then. So she goes to the barber's. And
then David, when she comes in, David lets her in and says, hello, Gran, you're here for a beard trim.
Shut up, David.
He's so good.
She says...
This week was the brilliant opportunity for just putting in those kinds of lines for David.
Yeah, he's just the king of snark.
Yeah.
She starts hunting for her scissors. She says she's coming back to work. And then she's actually done a good job on this person. And David can smell that she's drunk. And she's like, no, just had a little G&T, it's not that bad. And he says, no, you reek of it. You can't cut hair now, you're squiffy. What if a client gives us a bad review? Can you imagine? I can't. What an awful thing to do. Audrey ignores him and poodles off. Then we get Ryan in the barber's chair later. And Audrey's like, got wine now. So she's had a G&T.
Audrey and Ryan were brilliant this week because she was like, oh, what a lovely young man. She was kind of half flirting with him, half being a nana to him.
Yes, and Ryan is such a good boy starved of attention that he's just playing along with it.
Now that his mum abandoned him like 2 years ago and hasn't been seen around here since.
Remind me, Ryan was which one of Michelle's children?
Ryan was the not actual son.
So he was raised by Michelle.
Yes, Ryan was
No
raised
wonder
by
he
Michelle.
needs a strong female role model who actually pays attention to him. He's like, oh my god, a matriarch. I must obey everything she says. This is all I've ever wanted. What's the word? Appreciation from a woman, an older woman. So, he's in the barber's chair. She's drinking. She's like, do you want a beer?
A cheeky beer.
Yeah, and just to say, people were confused about this. You posted on social media about the fact that the Trim Up North does have a bar in it. So I don't understand why David's getting annoyed. If you don't want people to get drunk at work, don't give them alcohol. It's very, very simple. I
can't remember how much they've used of that bar set before, but it's definitely always been there. Because when we went there, we visited and we had to look and we posted some pictures of that, didn't we? Of the selection and the menu.
I'm pretty sure in the very early days they did mention it a bit more because I think there was something wrong with one of the pumps.
Was there? Oh, I don't remember.
I think there was a small storyline, something to do that, and I think I remember Ryan being behind the bar. Why do I remember that?
I don't know who the licensee is. Do you need to have? I guess to sell somewhere, you'd need to have a licensee. Is that Audrey?
Yeah, maybe she's
Or
like,
do
look,
we just not have to think about that?
Don't think about it.
Yeah.
So.
And also, not all barbers in this country have bars.
Oh no,
they're not called barbers because they have bars in.
No, I would
you
say
don't have barbers and no barbers.
I would go as far as to say that it is very unusual. Anyway, she goes off to go and get Ryan a beer. David starts cutting his hair. She brings the beer over and then she starts having a go at David for having crap barbering skills. She's still chatting him up later. David has to rescue him. She's like, oh, he's such a lovely young man. And it does look like Ryan's enjoying himself, but David's like, why is he still here? He had his hair cut like hours ago. What are you doing with him? And he's like, get out. And she refuses, but then she trips over the elephant, which is for some reason on the floor. So what did Maria do?
I thought that they said that Kelly put it on the floor, but I can't remember how it got back to Kelly. Well, Kelly's living with Maria at the moment, isn't she?
This is the rank hypocrisy of these environmentalists, Michael. They go around telling everyone else what to do, but will they do it themselves? No. Maria could have taken that to the recycling centre and had it recycled into lots of cursed teaspoons, but did she? No, she put it on the floor so that it would kill an old woman. Typical. But I guess as long as it's not an animal, she doesn't care, does she?
No, maybe she's just trying to kill off all the oldies because they're a drain on the planet's resources.
Oh dear.
And they don't believe in global warming and things.
They don't, no, exactly. All old people are the same. I wonder if you understand satire. Just checking. Audrey is sitting in the seat. I don't know why. What she's doing that for. She's already fired Kelly for being lazy.
No, she's just sitting in a seat. She's putting her feet up because she's had a tumble,
she's
hasn't
fallen
she?
over.
Yeah.
I love the fact that she fired Kelly for being lazy and putting the elephant on the floor, which, like, those two things, one of them is an action and one of them is being accused of not doing anything, which I think is great.
This is the start of Audrey's firing spree, wasn't it? Which is hilarious.
Oh, I loved it.
She at one point, I can't remember, did she say it or does David say it? Like, who do you think you are, Alan Sugar or something?
Brilliant. David says you can't fire her, and she says, well, you're fired as well. Maria comes into the barbers later and finds Audrey and Ryan playing table football, and Maria finds out that everyone's been fired, and she's completely stunned, but it's not long until she's also fired. So she goes over to number 8 and tells David and Gail that everyone's been fired, including her, and Gail's worried that Audrey's had a head injury. And Maria says, look, I don't think she's hurt her head, I think she's just drunk. But she needs to be sorted out. So Gail goes to the barbers and finds Audrey. She's sitting in a chair and singing along to a song. And yet again,
this is another song. Yeah.
Knowledge of songs.
Somebody, I'm sure, will write in and tell us what she was singing along to. It's some like lounge singery kind of thing. It sounded like.
I wish I'd paid more attention.
It was an old song that I did not know.
She says, "Can I come in?" And she said she wants to murder a cup of tea.
I thought that was a really nice little singing scene because often when they have characters. And I'm maybe talking about Gail here, singing along to music. They can just come across as being a bit imbecilic. But this was kind of quite wistful and sad, and it was not, but in a nice way. Like she was cosy and just enjoying herself and being reflective.
It feels to me like there's mostly two modes of singing on Coronation Street. There's comedy. I'm going to make it sound really bad, singing, or there's I am a good singer and I'm going to try and impress everybody with how great I am at singing.
That's the Barbara Knox singing.
There's quite a few people who've got a good set of pipes on Coronation Street.
Rockers.
Who, yeah. And I quite liked Audrey because she was just doing, it just sounded like she was singing to herself.
Yeah, she wasn't performing, was she?
That's right, that's exactly right. So, Audrey talks about her life and how she used to be respected when she was married to Alf, just to remind everyone. He was the mayor. And she knew that people laughed...
The mayor.
The mayor. She knew people would laugh at her, but, Gail's like, it was always done with affection. And she says, oh, where have all the years gone, Gail? I'm going to unsack David, Maria and Kelly in the morning, but now I'm going to have another glass of wine. And Gail's like, no, Mum. You've been boozing all day long and you're drinking yourself to death. You're not having any more wine. And she says, oh, I see. You can't wait till I die so you can get your hands on all my money. Is that it, Gail? And Gail's like, Mum, go home, sleep this off. And Audrey says, no, I'm going home to Grasmere Drive. I'm going to get a taxi. And Gail just leaves her to it. So Gail, Sarah and David have a crisis meeting about Audrey in the pub. Irony. They can't watch her all the time, and Sarah says they should look up online how to help her. And then Audrey...
How about itv.com/advice?
There might be some help there, Sarah, if you look there. No, that little snitch just phones her uncle, doesn't she? Meanwhile, Audrey is in the barber shop. All the lights are off. She gets scared by Vin Diesel, the weasel, falls backwards, holds onto the motorbike to balance herself, and then falls underneath it like she's auditioning to be Abby in the...
Oh yeah, when she had the motor on top of her.
In the garage.
Yeah. For us, for kind of a silly setup as being scared by Vin Diesel the Weasel, I think that Sue Nichols performed it fairly well, didn't she? Because she was kind of a little bit dopey and out of it. Or, the character
drunk.
was,
she
not
was drunk.
Sue. Yeah, and she was just like, wah! And it's a nice little horror shot of Vin Diesel. Nice for him to get a use. It's just nice that it's only been a few weeks that we've been seeing back in the barbers again, hasn't it? And they are using it well.
Yeah, I think so.
What's happening with the salon, I don't know, but nice to see this place.
We have been, like you said earlier, we have been on the set of the barbershop, but it was a few years ago now, and it is just really chock-a-block full. It's
packed.
And I would fall over if I was drunk in the dark. This is only a matter of time.
Yeah.
But I do take my hats off to Stu. He managed to sleep in there overnight without pulling a motorbike down.
Oh yeah, I bet he pinched a load of booze while he was there.
Oh yeah, but he was had his head under the tap.
Yeah.
Right, Friday.
Probably had it in a brown paper bag just to.
No, you're just adding to stigma.
Days. We don't. No, sorry, Stu. You're lovely.
Stu's not an alcoholic. Audrey's the alcoholic. She's the old lush here. Maligning Stu. On Friday, Gail and David. Maligning Stu sounds like a really horrible thing on a menu. Friday, Gail and David are on the phone. They're worrying about Audrey. Where is she? David's like, well, I've had to cancel a load of appointments. This was funny to me because he's been fired, but he's phoning up his clients from his own personal phone so that he can tell them that he is not going to be able to do their appointment today. If only he had gone into work to do those phone calls there.
Yeah.
He would have found her. That's because he's lazy, just like all this young generation. Audrey was right. David thinks it's family intervention time. Cut to Audrey still under the motorbike. Like, this is the worst blanket I've ever had. Platt family meeting at Speeddale, and they've invited Peter, the alcoholic, round to scare her into giving up the booze. He's basically there to give them advice, like, how do we deal with this problem? And he says, look, don't go in heavy-handed. It's going to cause more harm than good.
I think that maybe Carla would have done a bit of a better job being a fellow lush woman who likes a taste of the high life. I think Audrey might have been able to
I don't know.
Identify with her more.
I don't know. If I was Audrey, I don't think I'd like Carla. I think she'd know better than she should be.
She's a bit sour-faced, isn't she?
Yeah.
Can be. She's
also not a very particularly caring woman, which is, fine, good. Women don't have to care for people. I think she should do what she wants.
Oh yeah, because was it this week? I can't remember even which story we put this in, where Carla was invited round to Sarah's to go and look at her floor, and as she was working down the street, talking to Peter and saying, "Oh, we're probably going to have to look at her kids' art or something."
I thought that was great. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's right. Not every woman cares about flooring people's kids or looking after alcoholic grandmothers. So, they think, I think they're right here. I think that he might have some insight. But unfortunately, I think a lot of his insight is bad news for Audrey. Because if she truly is an alcoholic in the same way that Peter was, she ain't got enough years left in her for the redemption arc that took God knows how, like 20 years?
He has been an alcoholic for 20 years now, at least. Yeah, because we're seeing the beginnings of this on Classic, aren't we?
Brian and Elaine are outside.
That's right, Elaine's back, everybody. We can't get rid of her. What is going on? Every time Elaine goes, I think, okay, that started well, that character, but she went off the rails a little bit.
I don't mind her. I just as long as she's not involved in her son's sex life, she's tolerable. We liked her.
I did. Maybe this will be the opportunity.
Yeah, maybe she gets herself involved in some other business, and she might not be so annoying.
Well, now that Brian is free and single.
Oh, maybe this was it. Yeah, Brian and Elaine, they're outside. Brian's trying to get into the barber shop, and then she's talking to him, and then they both hear Audrey going, help me. Brian runs off to help. He does like this weird piston arm sprinting, And he seems to sprint around the street for half an hour before he realises that the Platts are next door.
Yeah.
in speed dial. He passes the taxi, and out from the taxi comes Stephen. Who's Stephen?
Stephen Reed.
Uncle Stephen from Canada / Milan.
Yes, they both got a shout out his homes today. So this is Stephen Reed, Gail's brother, because I think he hasn't been in the show since...
half brother?
Half brother, yeah.
Okay.
He hasn't been in the show since 2007, maybe I'm going to say. So that was a nice... Well, I'm not going to say surprise. We didn't know he was coming back. But it was a nice surprise when we heard that he was coming back.
Would have been more exciting if we didn't know that he was...
Just like Wendy Crozier. I think the Wendy thing we said last week, when she was revealed towards the end of... Was it Friday's episode or Wednesday? I can't remember. And we said if they had left that as a complete surprise, that would have been an amazing shock. I think if Stephen popping out of the taxi had been left as a surprise, it'd be like, oh, okay. Because there's only so much excitement you can get out of Stephen Reed, because just thinking back at his storylines, he hasn't been that brilliant of a character. But he's not particularly titillating, although he certainly got Alma Baldwin's motor going at one point. That was the story in his first. He kind of comes over. The backstory, again, very, very briefly, ad hoc Stephen Reed backstory, was that he was the secret son, the first son that Audrey had when she was younger, but she was made by her father to give him up to the Reed family, who then emigrated over to Canada. And it wasn't until the late 90s that Audrey revealed to Gail the secret. You got another brother, and then I think he's involved in the rag trade or something, and he works with, I'm going to say, Angie Freeman and Mike
the
Baldwin.
rag trade like you're an insider?
That's what Mike.
You don't even know the difference between a skirt and a dress.
And then he I think Mike counterfeits some of his gear, something. I don't remember too much.
K-Beck.
Audrey fancies him. Yeah, K-Beck is right. Well done.
Yep.
And then he buggered off again. Then he came back in again with around Sarah Lou's first exit story, because he was going to offer David a place in his factory or whatever it is in Milan, but because David's been a very naughty boy around then, or Sarah Lou sets him up, or something like that, he ends up giving Sarah the job anyway. That's kind of, in a nutshell, who Stephen Reed is. So, businessman with a Canadian accent that's... This is the thing. Everyone says... all the Canadian viewers say, that's a really, really bad Canadian accent, don't they? Whereas...
Do they?
Yeah, because he's actually American.
Is he?
The guy who plays him is American. I can't remember where they said he's from. Ohio, maybe? And apparently he's putting on a bad Canadian accent, but I don't know what a Canadian accent sounds like. My experience of Canadian accents is South Park, and I don't think you all sound like that.
Oh, no.
Crichton from Red Dwarf, which is
also an Englishman.
An Englishman putting on a Canadian accent, and an Alanis Morissette.
But
and I wasn't, if Stephen had opened his mouth and sounded like her, then that would have been a bit unusual.
Okay.
So
we
anyway.
apologise on behalf of the nation of the collected nations of the United Kingdom to Canada for repeatedly abusing your accents.
Yeah, I have got no idea what Canadians are supposed to sound like, unfortunately.
I thought they were
Tell you what, this is a
similar.
perfect opportunity for Canadian listeners. Send us in a voicemail,
let us
please. We've
know
not
what
had
you
a voicemail
sound like.
for ages.
Now,
Let's have a true Canadian here on the podcast.
Friend who was French Canadian, and she had an amazing voice.
French Canada.
Yes. And
would you like some cheese? Would you like a moustache?
Now I was just thinking, this kind of reminds me, because lots of actors who you think are American are actually stealth Canadians.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing. I probably do know lots of Canadians, but don't realise.
This reminds me of what it's like with we have lots of actors you might think are English, but they're not. They're stealth Welsh or they're stealth Scottish.
Stealth Welsh.
Yeah, or they're stealth Irish.
Just like Phil's home is stealth Welsh, isn't it?
Yeah, stealth Welsh. And then they sort of burst out and go, haha, I'm actually Scottish and I play James Bond and you didn't know.
Anyway, so that's Stephen Reed. Really nice to see him back on the show again. Let's see how he does. Gemma, back to you. What does Stephen get up to?
Thank you, Michael. Back to the story.
Back to you in the studio.
I don't know where
he
I am.
He overacts, that's what he does.
No.
He did. I saw other people saying it. I don't mind Stephen. He got better as the episode went on.
He was very excitable.
It was a bit...
I feel like they should have gone 20% less. And maybe not... I don't know what order they filmed it in, but it felt like maybe that was his first scene and it... Maybe should have eased.
I don't know why Stephen decided for the taxi to drop him off outside of Trim Up North rather than Grasmere Drive or number 8. But...
Well, the thing is, Audrey was last seen going, bugger this, I'm going home. Yeah. Grasmere Drive. And she also has not set foot in Trim Up North for years before this week.
No.
And...
So it's very lucky.
Very strange that he decided to come here, because as far as we know, Uncle Stephen's never been to Trim Up North before.
He's a bit of an Uncle Stephen, isn't he? A bit like Uncle Ronnie and Auntie Pam.
Yes, I'm the what's the word? I'm kind of the moon. I'm orbiting the main family here.
Yeah.
I'm not
Uncle. What was the uncle of the Windass family? Uncle Len.
Yes.
And of course, the most classic of all uncles, Uncle Fred.
Yes, I do love a good uncle. Mm. So, Uncle Stephen rushes out. He's like, I'm the Canadian superhero. Goes to the barbers.
Oh, there's a new episode of The Boys that's out now, Gemma, that we can watch. We'll watch that later today. Anyone else watching The Boys? Love it. Bit rude.
It's very rude. Do not watch it if you're young or unmarried. Stephen Reed bursts out of the taxi, goes to the barbers. Elaine's like, oh, there's a lady inside. He looks through the letterbox and he can see, imagine this. Has he come from Milan or has he come from Canada?
I don't think they said. I think they were kind of a bit hazy with it.
It must have come from Milan because it's...
He got there quite quick,
just drive down the motorway and you're here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Imagine coming all the way from another country because you're worried about your mum. And you get to where she works, and you look through the letterbox, and she's on the floor under a... How has she been in a...
handy coincidence.
Shut up. How has she managed to... what's the word? She's been in a road traffic accident inside Barbers. She's underneath a motorbike. How have you done this, Audrey? So, Stephen heroically kicks down the door. They find her on the floor. Elaine calls an ambulance. Stephen's panicking. Audrey's like, oh, am I dreaming? Oh, my dear son's come to rescue me. Peter tells the family, I reckon...
Meanwhile, back at Speed Dial.
Yeah, Peter's saying to everybody, I think one of you should talk to her. Not all of you, because it might be a bit confronting. And Nick says, I'll do it. Like, who wants Nick to have a lecture?
He says, I'm the most sober of you all.
Is that what he said?
Something like that, yeah.
I think he's confusing
I've got
sober
the most serious
with squinty. Brian rushes down. He does a pisty. He's been doing this.
I think Nick would wear me down quickest out of all of those.
Nick would just give you no choice, would he? Just squint at you till you agreed to all of his demands. Brian rushes down, tells them about the fact that he's calling for help. Audrey's calling for help. So they go out there.
This was not very well acted scene either, sorry, Gunny. But when it wasn't his fault, it was the script, really. But when he was going, oh yeah, but I went outside and I heard, help, help. And it was kind of like a comedy relaying of the message that...
Well, I was thinking...
There's a casualty within your place of employment.
Yeah, but I liked that scene because it told me, as a viewer, this is not a serious storyline. Don't worry, Audrey's going to be okay. Mm. And it also made me think, I can make fun of this storyline on the podcast without people having to go at me because I'm not taking it seriously.
Fair enough.
And I also think that this is Coronation's due being a bit more confident here about its issue storylines, because sometimes they can lose sight a little bit of what they're trying. Too preachy or too comedy, or I don't really get what I'm supposed to get out of this. Like, is this just going to be a throwaway 5-minute issue like we had with the CPAP machine in George, which I've not heard a word of since. This feels like a more of a mix, you know. There's the comedy stuff, there's the serious stuff, and they're doing this really well. This is balance. Yeah. I think this is really a really nice balanced storyline. And the reason I think they can do this is because the Platts are a collection of characters who can do both serious and comedy storylines.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So, they all gather outside and they can see this ambulance there. What the hell's going on? And who's in there? And why is Stephen here? And Stephen's very annoyed with everybody. He's like, why did I have to come and find her? I live in Milan. You're next door, all boozing it up with an alcoholic. What are you up to? So then we get a really nice sibling rivalry with Stephen and Gail. So Stephen and Gail go to the hospital. They're in the waiting room together, and they get talking and find out that it's Sarah who had phoned Stephen to let him know that things were on a slippery slope, which is why he came. And Gail, if I was Gail, she says, Sarah shows up and Gail's not very impressed with her because she's been ratted out to Stephen. And Sarah's like, look, I did exaggerate a little bit to get him to come. But if I was Gail, I'd be annoyed because it's like, well, don't you think we could have dealt with this? Why did you ask Stephen? You're basically saying you don't trust me. We just had a meeting about it. Anyway, a nurse or doctor comes and says, Audrey's got a ruptured spleen. You got to sign this form. And she gives it to Stephen, which I think puts Gail's nose out of joint a little bit.
Yeah.
While they wait, Gail talks to Stephen about how he was always Mum's favourite. And he says, look, it's easy to be the favourite when you're not here, okay? And I came back because I thought this might be my last chance to have a proper relationship with her. And if she doesn't pull through, I'm going to just be so full of regrets. And we're all... Well, I wasn't worried, were you?
No, I thought that she'd probably be okay.
But I like not being toyed with.
Yeah.
So Sarah, David and Nick all get a message on the Platt chat later on saying that Audrey's out of surgery. All went well. Thank goodness for that. Turns out you can lie under a motorbike at the age of 80 whatever and you'll be fine the next day. Gail and Stephen are out there when Audrey wakes up and she... Oh, this was terrible, wasn't it?
This is so awkward.
Audrey wakes up.
Poor Gail.
She's a bit out of it. She sees Stephen. She's like, oh, my
handsome
beautiful son. Oh, you've come to save me. Oh, and Gail's here. Oh, great. Will you bugger off, Gail? Basically, she tells her to get lost.
She does.
And Gail goes off and she has a little sad sit in the corridor.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bummer way to end the episode.
It really did end with a downer, didn't it? Gail with her massive hair almost clouding over her face like Cousin It. Shut
up. I enjoyed this week. I thought Wednesday was a really good comedy
Wednesday was certainly the highlight of the week.
Why end it with poor Gail being rejected by her mum?
Yeah, it was a bit... I mean, it's not unusual for episodes to end in a downer. No. But I think partly the problem I had with the ending this week is that I was really, really enjoying Audrey for the rest of the week, and her reaction to Gail in that final scene made me like, you've left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth now, actually, Audrey.
Yeah. I think maybe is the moral we're supposed to get from this, like, yeah, you're watching this as an outsider. Audrey's fun. You can make all the memes you want online and talk about how funny it is that she's an alcoholic grandma and, she's a rebel, blah blah blah, fun. But actually, if you're Gail, it's not funny at all. It's sad. And think about that over the weekend, you bunch of monsters.
So I did have some sympathy for Gail towards the end. But it's a good dynamic they've now got with the prodigal son and Gail. And I don't know how long Stephen's going to be staying around for and everything, whether it's just for the story or whether he's staying for a bit longer. But it could be quite fun. I like bringing people back. This is a good week. Lots of funny stuff. One of the other funny bits that we didn't mention specifically earlier was when it was the shot scene between Audrey and Rita, and Rita also good drunk. On that one, was that Tuesday's episode or Wednesday? I can't remember. It almost felt like a few ad-libbed lines from Barbara Knox there, where she was like, they left the pub and she was like, "Oh, where are we going now?" And
I want to say something.
I loved all that.
I think there's quite a few actors on Coronation Street who are really good at drunk playing, and I think if you said to them, "What's the secret?" they'd say, "The secret is I'm always drunk."
Do you reckon? Is that...
I'm not... No, I just wanted to make that joke. I don't think that anybody has a substance abuse problem on Coronation Street, and nor do I know.
Hope not.
No, but it would be a very easy way of doing it, wouldn't it?
So Audrey did humorous very, very well. How was Gail serious when it counted this week?
I thought good.
I thought it was okay. She sometimes is a bit kind of wide-eyed in her delivery.
She's
of things.
Always been like that though. That's just what she's like.
I thought that the scene where it was just her and Gail in the salon on her and Audrey in the salon on Wednesday.
It's not a salon, it's a barbershop.
Barber's, same thing to me. It was nicely done. But
I like that scene. I really like that kind of scene. Yeah.
Yeah, but should she have abandoned Audrey in the end, or should she have stuck with her because she ends up giving up?
How old is Audrey? Do we know?
Near 80-ish.
I don't know how old she is.
I mean, so old that it doesn't particularly matter. She's jolly old and maybe shouldn't be left alone. But I was. I don't know whether Gail should have manhandled her out or something. I don't know whether she'd have been able to. But she is her mum. It's not necessarily her responsibility. And if Audrey's the one demanding independence, then maybe Gail was right to leave her there. She didn't know that a motorbike would fall on top of her.
So Sue Nichols, who plays Audrey Roberts, is 78. I do not know how old.
Audrey will be older than that then, because Audrey is definitely older than Sue is.
Oh yeah, because actually, this will blow your mind if you didn't know already, but Sue Nichols is 78 and Helen Worth, who plays her daughter, is 71.
Yeah, not much in it.
not much in it at all.
Anyway, so that was all.
I was only asking because I'm thinking, I tell you what, this is the dilemma though, isn't it? As your parents age, and we haven't got to this stage yet, and I'm certainly not looking forward to having to deal with worrying about this, but I don't know.
I don't think any of our three remaining parents are going to turn into massive lushes in their twilight years. No, you're not listening to what I'm trying to say. Cross fingers, we never have to worry about this, but at what stage does your parent turn from that, well, they're an adult, to actually know they do need me for X, Y, Z? Well, this is something that so many people do have to go through.
You have to look after them, and but they also are human beings with their own autonomy. It's not your job, or is it? That's the question. This is a very, very interesting dilemma.
It kind of always has been for humanity through time, hasn't it?
I'm not saying it's a new thing.
Especially with families back in the olden days all living together in one house. And
well, that was a more preferable thing, wasn't it? Because everyone cares for each other as you need it.
Yeah.
Whereas we all live, well, mostly independent lives. Younger generations, unfortunately, having to live with their parents for longer than they would prefer, I would imagine. But we all live quite independently of each other, and you don't know unless you check in.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really interesting story to tackle for Coronation Street, especially given that these characters have been in the show for decades, and we've watched them grow older. And many of us will be thinking, this reminds me of my family dynamics.
I just think it's great that I know that she's been easing off her number of appearances in the last few years, but it's good that Audrey is still able to handle a big-ish story like this and an action scene and everything as well.
Well,
I thought the stunt was quite good. She clearly had a stunt woman being crushed by a motorbike, but I enjoyed that moment.
You say that, but like we just said, the actress who plays Audrey is only 7 years older than the actress who plays Gail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can I give a quick shout out before we move on to Shona again this week? Still absolutely killing it with her sarcasm and
I love the bit where she's just being very deadpan about, like, is Audrey gonna die? And when she goes and she gets a scan, she's like, "Oh, that's good. They wouldn't have bothered scanning her if they thought unless they saw a point."
Yeah, that was so.
And then
funny.
she said, and then who says?
Somebody comes and asks how Audrey is, and she's like, "Scannable."
I love that. I think I'm going to use that to describe my own.
That was brilliant.
Because it just means she's alive.
Yeah.
And there's hope.
And
that's how I feel about myself a lot of the time. I am alive and there's hope, but I can't say much beyond it.
She was harassing George for funeral discount as well at one point, wasn't she? She's so funny.
She's great.
Sonya is having a little renaissance at the moment.
Blunt Shona.
In the final months before Julia Goulding goes off on maternity leave, I'm glad that they're getting some decent use out of her. But let's stick with the Platts and move on to the next story. The Max drops his slacks. And I've also been really quite impressed by Paddy Beaver these last few weeks as well. I was very kind of down on him. Maybe in my head or out loud, I can't remember, you'll have to go back and listen. But I think the problem that Paddy Beaver has got, and I said this to you earlier this week, is that it is absolutely impossible to not compare him to Jack P. Shepherd at his age. And he was such an amazing child actor. He teenage Jack P. Shepherd, teenage David was wonderful. I mean, even pre-teen David was, when he was the cheeky little scamp when he was like 10, 11 years old. But all the way through his teenage years, he was one of the best characters on Coronation Street. His delivery of everything, the sarcasm, the evil glares, the out-and-out comedy, it was all perfect. And Paddy Beaver has got huge shoes to fill here, which he can't possibly. But if you try to put that out of your mind, he's actually not that bad.
Michael, what a backhanded compliment.
He's actually kind of good.
Okay. Well, look, I think it's easy to forget it recently because Jack P. Shepherd has not been in the show as much as he has been in previous years. But he's, a bit of an acting prodigy. a bit of very special kind of character, and you know, if you're casting his son, it's difficult.
Yeah, it is. You got, as I say, you got a lot to live up to.
But can I just point out too, the actor can only work with what they're given, and it's difficult sometimes for the writers and the actors to collude in a way that works with both of them to produce a really good character. Yeah. Like sometimes it is an instant hit, and sometimes people will flail for a couple of years before they really get their groove.
Yeah, until the writers find a voice for them.
And it's not even necessarily that. It's all working in synergy, and especially because of COVID, I can imagine it's been very difficult to work like in that way. And sometimes I think it's a happy accident, or maybe, you know, it's could just be the years of experience they have. But it just sometimes it immediately works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's Max's character has been kind of waiting a little bit. But I would say the same about Todd.
Yeah, I was just thinking that about Todd. Because they didn't really know what to do with him.
Just want to say, they knew how to write for Todd. They knew how to write for that character. They didn't know how to write for the actor who was playing Todd because he was a different person. But now I think they've got it.
Yeah,
don't you?
Yeah. And I think we're seeing that more for Max as well. I'm still never completely sure about whether we should be sympathising with Max or hating him.
But that's good.
We've seen his despicable side and also his vulnerable side this year.
I like this. I really like Max. I like the fact that he's unapologetically grey. He's a villain, he's a hero, he's a vulnerable victim, he's the perpetrator. And I think that's a very honest way of telling the story of a teenage boy or girl who's kind of going through a period where they're not really sure. The thing is about Max, he doesn't even know who he is. How are we supposed to know? And I think that's honest. I think that's true to what it's like to be a teenager and search for who you are.
Well, he certainly got a taste of his own medicine this week, didn't he?
I think a lot of people were very gleeful to see him squirm. I think it's a bit mean.
He's been through the ringer this year. So far, we're only halfway through the year, and so far he's been pushed down the stairs, cut his crotch open on a jagged window, and now had been catfished.
Oh,
which is a term that I could sometimes forget what they mean. But that catfishing is when you pretend to be somebody else on the internet in order to try and get someone else to do something, isn't it? That's what Bernie was doing to Kel a few years ago when she was pretending to be a young kid interested in drumming lessons.
Now, I think if you want to listen to an unbelievable story about catfishing on the internet, you need to listen to My Sweet Bobby, which is the podcast series about somebody who had a catfishing incident happen to them, and it is quite unbelievable. And I'll say no more than that.
Thank you very much for the recommendation.
Yeah.
So, Monday, Max wants a haircut because he's got this big date with Sonya, the lovely girl from the PRU, coming up later today. And David's like, yeah, I suppose I can squeeze you in.
Can I ask you, do you remember what the names of his friends were?
No.
Okay, because he has two friends.
Yes. Well, he thought they were his friends. His scally mates.
And they... At one point, they looked like the three see no evil monkeys because they all had the same hair, but one of them had like, I'm going to go to the left with my fringe, and all of them was like, I'm going to go straight down with my fringe, and the other one was like, well, I'm going to go up with my fringe, and that was it. It was like, you're indistinguishable from each other, boys.
They've all kind of got, shaved around the back of it.
It's all shaved around the back and like a
long
big old
fronts.
puff.
Yeah. It's a bit like Gary Windass, isn't it? He's also
that must be the in thing, Michael. Why does your hair not look like that?
Yeah, maybe next time I go to the barbers, I say, can you make me look like one of the cool people from Coronation Street, please?
I remember when in the good old days when a boy, if he wanted to advertise his studliness to the women, he would have curtains.
Yeah, well,
we would
Adam
all go,
Rickett, who can forget that?
Look at those curtains. When are they coming back?
I'm sure that what the boys have got on their heads is really, really cool at the moment. We're just coming across as old fuddy-duddies.
Oh, I don't think it looks uncool. I just think it looks funny. Honestly, if you're being fashionable and you don't look a bit funny and weird, you're doing it wrong.
Right, so Max is telling his mates later about booking a table at the bistro later, and they kind of rib him a bit about what's going to happen afterwards.
Sonya.
And they pass him a condom.
What? Don't.
No. So this is just getting him into the idea, because it turns out that it's later them who were the ones that were catfishing him. But I don't think he had any concept of the fact that this date would turn into a bonking session, but or anything where he would be revealing his private parts to young Sonya, and they're like, yeah, she wants to see it, so here's something to put on it.
I would not, knowing what we know at the end of the week, take a condom from these two reprobates because they've probably put a pin in it.
Yeah, I was totally expecting the condom to fall out of his pocket at some point, because he then goes to the hairdressers later, doesn't he? And Maria's there at the barber's and David cajoles her into cutting Max's hair, and I thought that it would fall out of his pocket, but they didn't go down that route at all. But what they do have happen to him is he receives a text message on his phone from Sonya saying that she wants a picture of the full package so that she can see what she's getting beforehand, and he looks absolutely terrified of this, as would probably quite a lot of people in his position. No, don't do it, Max! This is like, honestly...
We don't understand, do we?
I don't understand these things.
Don't pressure people for nudes and don't send them.
No.
I'm going to suggest.
Really not a good idea. But I think they did do quite a good job of this storyline also not coming across as too preachy. Because it clearly was like a cautionary tale to the youths of watching Coronation Street. But honestly, you shouldn't need telling. Really shouldn't.
Well, no. I mean, I struggle with this a lot because
we all did silly things when we were young.
I don't want to be a prude, and I don't want to come across as the sort of person who would say, well, if you don't want to get pregnant, just never have sex, you know. But I can't see the benefit of sending somebody a nude photo. I can see many downsides, and maybe they'll like the picture, but I just don't. I think the risks are too great.
Yeah. So
I don't want to tell people what to do.
I want to tell people not to don't do this, especially if you're only 15.
Yeah, don't do that. No, definitely don't do it if you're 15.
So Max comes home later and he's a bit embarrassed to find Audrey there.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that he's 15.
But Audrey disappears off to the pub probably a little bit later than that. So he kind of heads upstairs and he's starting to untuck his shirt or something, goes upstairs, takes the snap, and then later on meets Sonya off the bus. And she doesn't mention this picture at all. And I think he's kind of a bit like, why aren't we saying anything about this amazing picture I just sent you? Because he probably quite rightly is worried about what she thought about it. So anyway, he takes her off and says that he's got a surprise for her at the bistro. And they seem to be hitting it off quite well there. And eventually Max does bring up the picture, which she seems to have no knowledge of. And that moment there where she's like, I don't know what picture you're talking about. The look of kind of horror on his face, and me as part of the audience thinking, oh my gosh, what's happened here? Because I didn't see this coming at all. I didn't know that it was going to be a catfishing storyline. I was like, oh no, poor Max, what's happened to him here? So it turns out, I kind of missed part of it, but basically all the times that he's been chatting, I don't know whether it's just been through his phone or whether it must have been through the laptop as well, wasn't it? Because the boys knew about the hench thing later.
I think every conversation he's had with Sonya that wasn't in person is fake.
Yeah, I think that was what it was supposed to be. And Max realises that he may have sent this picture of his penis off to this mystery person.
And the rest of them, so.
And I don't know. I don't think they were completely clear about what the picture was. We know that Willie's did feature in it, but whether it was the full package... He's got more than one.
I'll take a photo of that.
Yeah, because I saw later on when they were showing pictures of his phone, where the text message of the picture would have appeared, it was like blurred out, so it's tap to show the picture.
Yeah. Who
has an operating system like that? Who'd want to have to tap on a picture to actually see it?
Because I know Twitter knows, doesn't it?
Oh, does it?
This is a sensitive image, you want to see it?
Oh yeah, you're right.
But is your phone looking at your pictures going, that's a willy?
That's a penis.
I'm going to have to get rid of that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so he rushes off and goes and freaks out in the kennel. I would be absolutely...
That's the worst.
That really, really is.
Just betrayal, just sickening.
Yeah,
terrifying.
I'd be sick at this. And he's texting this mysterious number and like saying, why are you doing this to me? And he gets the message back, money emoji, $1,000 or your picture goes viral. So he goes back home, not in any mood for David's jokes about his date ending early.
I just want to say, if you're worried and you still want to send a nude, maybe cut your head off, and then you'd be like, whatever, it could be anyone's penis.
That's a really good point, actually, and I suppose that shows that Max must have featured his whole self in the snap. Otherwise, he'd have said, well, there's no proof that it's me, unless he's got a tattoo somewhere
that says Max.
If found, please return to number 8 Coronation Street.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so the problem
man.
the problem that Max kind of realises over the course of the episode is that he could get into a lot of trouble for this.
And this is true.
Yeah, because he's out with his mates in Victoria Gardens, was it, I think, later, and one of them says, you should go to the police.
Now this is weird because he's the one that's done this.
But he says you should go to the police because it's a setup for his other mate to say, oh no, what if the police do you for sending a pornographic photo? Because I think if Max had been left to his own devices to come up with the decision to go to the police, he might have actually gone and done it. So these people are putting the idea in his head for him before...
They're being very clever.
Yeah, before sort of poo-pooing it, I suppose.
And he'll get sent to the prison for pervs.
Yeah, you sent a pornographic picture to a minor, or at least attempted to. Who knows where the picture actually went to? I don't know how old his mates are supposed to be. I'm guessing the same age, but if he's only like 3-4 months away from being 16 anyway, so it could be that they are a little bit older than him. I can't remember. Anyway, he's going to be sent to a prison for pervs. And Max says, well, we're just nothing to it then. We're going to have to pay this money. Back at home, Shona is asking Max about how the date went. And he says, look, it doesn't look like Sonya was who I thought that she was. And Sonya says, look, don't worry about it. Let's have a takeaway tonight. Let's take your mind off it. Go and get your dad's wallet. And he goes and hovers over David's credit card. So he's clearly intending to pinch £1,000 from David. What could possibly go wrong there? Max pretends to be David and tries to do a phone transfer over to his own bank, but he kind of chickens out when he's asked for a security number.
I chicken out when my bank asks me for a security number as well.
Yeah,
so
I never know what
it is.
All you have to do is say, I don't remember. And
then
they say,
go,
okay, tell me the first line of your address.
What's your grandma's name?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that either.
What's your grandma's favourite tipple? No, your great-grandma's favourite tipple.
What's your grandma's favourite TV show? It's Coronation Street.
So anyway, he isn't able to do that. But when he goes to the barber's later, David has clearly been informed that somebody tried to do this. Would that happen? I don't know. But he says, right, somebody tried to hack into my bank account. What's going on? Matt tries to act all innocent, but they say, no point, we know it was you. Because he doesn't have the greatest of poker faces, does Max, does he?
I don't think so.
Bit like George, he's just got the wide-eyed, like deer in the headlights
Gulp.
look. And so David and Shona set to grilling Max. And this was another brilliant Shona moment, because David doesn't quite get what's happened, but Shona picks up on it, doesn't she? That he says... I can't remember what exactly it is that Max says. It's like, oh, somebody asked me to send a picture to them. And Shona's like, oh, whoa. And then she kind of has to give a little sign to David.
I love the fact, can I just say that even though Shona has had her struggles with understanding social situations since she was shot in a box, she obviously knows more things.
She's more street smart than David is, for sure. He's had a fairly privileged upbringing, or as privileged as you can if you've been driven into a canal, among other horrors.
Oh yeah, so privileged.
Anyway, so David's like, well, we need to go straight to the police, and Shona says, straight to the Ross, there's no way, it's illegal what he's done, we can't do that. And Max says, yeah, and Sonia's underage, so it's just...
Do you want me to do a bit of a thing about what the law actually is?
Have you been doing some research?
Yeah, it is illegal for you to have a sexual image of anyone under the age of 18, and that does not necessarily only include naked pictures. It could be underwear pictures or anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know it's illegal to share them. It's illegal. We must have talked about this when we had Ash's story. If you send nudes and you're under 18 and the other person is also under 18, you're both doing something illegal.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's necessarily true that the police would do something to prosecute you, but you also have to bear in mind that any of these pictures could be sent to anybody else, and those people that view that picture might not be looking at it in the same way that your 15-year-old girlfriend would be looking at them in. Exactly. So if you do have any, if you're listening to this and you're under 18 and you have any more questions, Childline does have some really good like pages about what to do and why you probably shouldn't do it. Yeah. And talking about... Listen to your PSHE teacher. Please don't, if you're under 18, just remember... There's a lot more. You can be 80 under a motorbike. Just think about how many years you've got ahead of you to send new pictures
Yeah.
when you're over 18. You don't need
if
to.
it was Audrey sending nude pictures of herself,
That's
then no
fine.
problems.
I don't mind, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, just don't, just please be careful, because you could make yourself a criminal. and it's, the law is there to protect you, that's the thing. And I think in this situation, I do think that Max, and I think they're worrying needlessly, because I think the fact that these other boys have tricked him into sending them the photo, they haven't mentioned, because it's not convenient for them to say this, but they have also committed a crime by receiving those pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they wouldn't be able to, that's kind of, that's the blackmail shouldn't really work in that case, because Max and Shona and David don't understand the law properly, really. They know that it's illegal to send a picture, but they haven't really thought through that it's also illegal to get the picture.
At this stage in the week, they don't realise.
It's double jeopardy. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, except the problem for Max is when it all comes out, they can still press that send button, because if they're already,
Yeah, but then it becomes another crime on top. It's like then it's like revenge porn and
yeah. Anyway, by the end of Monday's episode, Max is begging David to give whoever this mystery blackmailer is the money. And Wednesday he tries to skive off school.
Oh, I feel so bad for him. You must imagine how sick you'd feel.
You'd feel absolute.
You feel like you've ruined your whole life.
I'm sure everyone's been in a situation where you felt that you've done something wrong and you don't know what's going to happen if you go into work or school or whatever the next day.
Horrible.
Yeah, really is. He's found lurking in Victoria Gardens by Shona, and he says, look, we're going to have to play the blackmailers. But David says, no way. When he's alone, when David is alone, he looks at his phone, and it turns out that he hasn't got very much money in there, I think.
I thought somebody had sent the money.
No, I thought he just looked at his phone and it looked like he had less than £1,000 in there. I don't remember.
Oh, finally, somebody with a realistic financial situation on Coronation Street. How many people can look at their phone and go, yes, more than £1,000, I can happily donate that to my child's porn fund.
I know. Well, Dev obviously has got bottomless oodles of cash to stop Ash's picture appearing on porn sites. Yeah, that's true.
This is really interesting. Isn't this, you're right, you've just brought up a really interesting point here about how people with different financial situations have to face problems in a different way. Well, because Dev just threw as much money as he could at it, and they don't even have enough money for blackmail.
No.
Tragic.
So at the bus stop later, Max is telling his mates about the ransom and how we're going to get this kind of money, all that kind of stuff. And then they start snickering and then quoting back lines from his chat with Sonya. One of them mentions hench, and that was clearly them put into the scripts last week so that it would be very obvious that as soon as they say that, because who says that anymore?
No one.
It had to be him. And Max is like, what, you catfished me? And I didn't think that that's the sort of thing that Max would have said. Is that like... I know it is called catfishing, but I don't know whether people would say, I can't believe you catfished me.
Well, you think that there's some kind of new, kind of cool teenage slang?
Yeah.
What would it be?
I don't know. It was just like you were just...
You bamboozled me.
I would have just thought that it was what, Max, it was you.
I know. I think this is more of a utility to describe the situation to the viewer than anything else.
Anyway, and they were like, "Yep, it was us, and you know what? You still got to cough up your money too. Otherwise, we're going to send that picture to everyone in school." And they tell him to get down on his hands and knees and beg. This was so like
sickening.
My stomach was churning watching this. It was so awkward and horrible.
Sense of justice, which is the vast majority of people, would watch this and find it to be so infuriatingly
I would
sickening.
hope so, although quite a lot of people cheered when he was pushed down the stairs earlier this year, didn't
that
they?
Was funny. Listen, you can look, right? You can hit me as much as you want. You can attack me if you like, but if you attack my dignity, that's when you hurt my feelings, and that's terrible.
Yeah, and then this is what's
that's
poor Max.
This is one of the phrases that annoys me. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but knows will have no. It's completely the opposite. You can hit me with a stick as much as you want, but if you say I'm horrible, I might cry. And I feel like this is, this was just the worst. Watching him being humiliated like this, and I don't particularly have much of a good opinion of Max.
No, nor me. And
he's not a likeable person.
The fact that I had this reaction to this scene means that they've done a very good job, because the character that I'm not particularly fussed on I was really feeling bad for him.
But how about this? If this was Amy that did this to him, how would you feel? Because Amy's the one who's actually been hurt by him. Would you think, oh, yeah, this is justice?
I think I'd be a bit annoyed then. I think I'd remove myself from the situation and
Would
go,
you?
that was no. I would not be thinking about it as characters. I'd be thinking, why do the writers make Amy do that?
So you think you'd still think that Amy was wrong?
Well, yeah.
So there's no situation in which you would like to see somebody on their hands and knees
I can't see Amy
begging.
doing this. She's not that cruel.
No, it's cruel, isn't it?
It just really is. That's the only word there is
That
for
absolute
it.
bastard. You know, I get really violent. Like, I have such violent thoughts when I see something like this. It just makes me wish that Max would just beat them.
So you're encouraging violence between 15-year-olds.
I want to start a 15-year-old fight club.
Anyway.
And they're laughing at him as well.
Yeah, they're laughing at him. It's just, it's so hideous.
But then I like this because he fought back.
Yeah, he does. He I can't remember what he says, but
So shut up.
yeah.
Shut up, you scumbags.
Do one, scumbags. Anyway, Shona comes out very handily to break it up, but unfortunately for her, she ends up getting punched in the face by Max, who's
and I was
in the
watching
middle
this,
of a tussle.
And I went, oh God, no, she's pregnant. I was like, she's not Shona's pregnant, shut up.
You think it's alright to get punched in the nose if you're pregnant anyway? It's punched in the stomach that's...
No, don't punch pregnant
Don't go around
women.
testing it out by punching pregnant women.
The official stance of Conversation Street is that you shouldn't punch anybody.
No, unless you're a boxer.
No, never. Even then, I think you should hurt each other with poems.
But words will never hurt them, Gemma.
No, they should only rap battles from now on.
Yeah. Anyway, lads go off. Shona orders Max home. She's got blood streaming out of her nose.
That was very impressive, wasn't it?
It was. And when David comes home ranting about Audrey being drunk and firing him, he suddenly notices Shona's got this blood all over everywhere, and here's what's happened with Max. And Max, it's a bit of a quick end to the story this week, really, wasn't it? Because it was towards the end of Wednesday's episode. Friday was all about Audrey, and where we left it is Max is sent to his room for punching Shona in the nose, and
that was it.
Who knows what's going to happen next. But I was like really into this story this week, so I was a bit disappointed it didn't come back on Wednesday, as much as I enjoyed having Uncle Stephen back, because they did a good job, and I as somebody who has dealings with young children as part of my day-to-day profession, it's always good to keep up to date with what the kids are doing these days. I hope
that your kids aren't doing this.
I would hope that they're not doing this as well, but But I mean, more and more children I'm noticing these days, like the upper end of primary school, do have mobile phones.
Oh, of course they do.
But I've only noticed that in the past 5 to 10 years, maybe. Yeah.
I think. Do you know? I'm going to say something. Maybe children shouldn't have phones with cameras on them.
The thing is, you can't police it, can you? And certain parents will want to show. Oh, so look how generous a parent I am.
It's not just to do with that.
I've got my kid an iPhone 13 or whatever.
Maybe I am going to be controversial and stand by what I just said, because we had cameras when I was a kid, but they weren't connected to the internet. You're not stopping a child from taking photos if they can't use their phone. Yeah, I can't see the point of it. I think it seems like a bad idea.
Well, this is why we have to be teaching them in school from quite a young age about sensible internet usage and device usage and everything. It
terrifies me to think of what the children like.
The problem is there's going to be lots of children who will be in the lessons in either primary school or young secondary school that will just say, don't care. This isn't to do with me. I would be sensible with a camera. I would never do anything like this. And this is what we're battling against: children thinking I would never be in that situation, and then they just walk straight into it like Max does.
They don't know that they are so vulnerable. You don't realise when you're a child.
No, you think you're the bee's knees, don't you?
Wow.
Which is exactly what we saw happening with Asher. Although Asher was slightly different, because she didn't realise that she was being videoed, did she? And she was kind of coerced by Corey into taking her clothes off of him.
She thought that she was doing it just for him, and he then said that he'd
dump her and everything if she didn't do it.
It is quite interesting though that Corey didn't necessarily ever intend to disseminate that, but it was actually Kelly that did. Murderess and child pornographer. He sent everybody the pictures.
Yeah, I tell you what, Kelly is no better than Max's scally mates here, is she? Honestly.
Well, yeah, in a way, but is the sympathy's not there for Max?
This time next year, his scally mates will be they'll have had their redemption arc. Do you think?
Do you reckon so?
Yeah, probably if one of their mums gets bowel cancer or something, that seems to be the way of doing it. Or give them a bit of homelessness.
So the Asher situation was Corey asked her to take her top off while they were doing a video call. He saved the picture. Then there was a party, and Kelly took Asher's phone and sent the video. Oh no, Corey's phone.
I can't remember whether Corey must have been going around showing it to people.
I don't know. I don't remember that. But
well, otherwise, how would Kelly have known?
It's definitely Kelly. I think
the photo was
there.
Well,
she sent it to everybody.
Yeah, she was the one that put it all on the.
And then it went everywhere on the internet, and then Dev had to pay a lot of money to get it removed from the internet. But Asher still obviously.
Yeah.
You don't know whether that's out there forever.
Is this storyline different enough to that one that it doesn't feel like they're just revisiting the same issue?
And I think it's more interesting because it involves a character too who is in the same group of kind of contemporaries, and also he was the upskirting thing. He was on the periphery of that, wasn't he? He
was, and I think this is what I was alluding to when I said that he got a taste of his own medicine. He wasn't actively involved in upskirting the girls at the school, but he was looking at the photos, or they were being sent to him, and he was just looking at them and laughing and thinking, this is kind of funny, but I'm not the one doing it, so therefore it's okay. And now he's realised...
he didn't take any responsibility for looking at them.
No, and I think somebody, Summer or Amy or someone will probably call him out and say, well, now you know what it was like for us.
Yeah, because
hopefully
they didn't
it will be a character growth opportunity for Max.
They didn't even know that they were having their pictures taken, whereas he took the picture himself.
Yeah. He's totally brought this on himself.
He hasn't brought it on himself.
Well, no, it's not. I'm not victim blaming or anything here, but like we said earlier, don't go around taking pictures of yourself like this.
Well, again, I don't want to judge people. I just feel like. It just feels like a bad idea. Especially if you're under 18, just don't do it.
Yeah, he was just very, very naive, which
but I guess
some ran to bite him in the bum.
I feel so bad for kids these days.
I know.
There's so many more opportunities to make horrible, life-changing mistakes than we had when we were kids. Like, what could you have done when you were a kid that really would have followed you for the rest of your life? Nothing. If the things I thought and said were on the internet forever from when I was a kid, I would be ashamed of myself eternally. And we're looking at a situation here where, in 50 years' time or whatever, the next president of the United States is going to have all of his stupid, or her stupid, self-indulgent, BS-y kind of little teenage thoughts dug up and paraded around.
Yeah, and he's going to have to explain himself and say...
What's the solution? Yeah, what's the solution? There's stop people from expressing themselves forever? I don't know. I think
you can't get rid of social media because there's an awful lot of good that it does as well.
Just write it in a diary. Put your lock on it. That's what we used to do.
Yeah.
But here's the secret. All the locks were the same.
No, I'm very, very glad we didn't have this when I was little. Both of us had experience of being bullied, like most children were, and just the thought that this is an extra hurdle that you have to get over to make it through your teenage years. It's
So what do you think they should do?
To be old.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm old.
What should they do? Should they go to the police or not, or pay the money? And what will they do?
They can't pay the money because number one, they don't have it, and number two, it won't stop.
No, I think if knowing what they're like, and can I just say as well, the two actors who played the bullies, I think they did a really good job.
They were so annoying.
They were really irritating,
Perfect.
but intimidating as well.
Yeah,
they came across very, very. They did an awesome job, I thought.
They were great, and I think Coronation
as just really, kind of throwaway characters.
Really great at casting these like you say throwaway characters who have one function. They're so good at casting the right people for those roles.
Yeah, so sometimes they get it wrong. Like, that
right.
But no, we remember that there have been characters in Coronation Street that you're supposed to be scared of. Hashim last year, he wasn't that great.
I think you'd be more scared of him if he was after you in real life.
Maybe, but no, I thought they did a good job. Anyway, they can't pay the money. Is Max going to try and steal it? Are they going to try and get it from the salon or something?
I think because this is a soap, I think that it will escalate, won't it? He's going to do what you just said, maybe. Instead of the sensible option, which would be two silly children are committing crimes, trying to stitch somebody else up, Because honestly, I don't know what the police would do in this situation, but I would really, really hope that they would just call everybody in and say, can you stop doing this, please? You're going to get yourselves in trouble.
Yeah.
And you better not have sent that to anybody, because if you do, I mean, you can ruin your life for just because you don't like Max for whatever reason. You're going to end up with this on your record. And I don't know what would happen to a child that did this maliciously.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't see Max being sent to prison over this.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about these two boys.
No, I was just thinking, Clayton's too old to still be in the same prison that Max would be thrown in, isn't he?
Well, he's fit. It's more like...
That could have been an interesting
It's more the fact that Max is too young.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
It's not like we have band ages for prison.
No, I'm just saying, the last time I thought we saw Clayton, he was in the young offenders prison. And if they were just going to put Max in that prison and have him meet up with him,
they might
could be
still
kind
do
of
that
interesting.
anyway,
but no,
because they like
Clayton's
to fudge things, don't
now.
they?
Maybe, yeah. I've heard of characters being made older, but not so much
younger.
younger.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Here's another option. Does Audrey was saying to Gail, "You're just all waiting for me to die so that you can have my money."
Yeah.
Maybe this will lead onto a story where she says, "Tell you what, I hate you all. Here's the cash that you're going to get when I die. I'm cutting you out of my lives." And then suddenly the Platts have their little windfall that could possibly be used to pay off these bullies.
Interesting theory.
There's a theory that could happen. Audrey seems to be in the mood to do something.
I think
rash
Audrey should
like
keep
that.
hold of her cash. It's her cash. She can do what she wants with it.
Yeah, she should. But whenever characters need money on Coronation Street, usually something happens that they get it. So maybe Audrey gives it, or I mean, Uncle Stephen is now in the family unit. What's he going to think about it? And he's absolutely loaded, isn't he? Because he's a rich Melanese business owner. So could they use some of Uncle Stephen's Quebec cash to pay these people off? There are still options for if they want to go down there. Do you think the pictures will end up spreading? Is that an inevitable? And if they don't, would Max still learn a lesson? You'd hope so, but I think for maximum drama, the pictures have got to get out there.
What's the purpose of the story? Is it to teach us all a lesson, or is it to make drama? I know it's supposed to be a combination of both, but it depends on whether Coronation Street wants to sort of go, look, kids, don't listen. This is what could happen. Mm. Is it a proper tale of warning?
Yeah, cautionary tale.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to think of. Tale of warning. Thank you for telling me that.
Anyway, that was really good. So 2 really strong Platt stories this week. There were some elements of the Audrey stuff, like I said, towards the end where I was thinking, Audrey, you're being a bit harsh here. But yeah, on the whole, that was good stuff.
Look, I prefer it when a character does something unlikable. Because it makes me feel better about myself and being so unlikable.
Anyway, let's move on to talking about somebody else's todger.
Oh, I was going to say somebody else who's unlikable. Tim. Right, on Monday, Tim's got his appointment with Dr. Gallus. He's a bit nervous, and he goes in to talk to her, and they thought, don't worry.
She reduced his medicine.
You can just adjust your prescription, and it might work. It doesn't seem to have helped, and he thinks he's finished. She says, "No, look, okay, maybe." This is actually Sally saying, "Look, you'll be fine. It doesn't matter. Even if we can't have sex, I've heard that there are things you can do as a couple that don't involve being naked and rubbing your bits together. So I don't mind as long as we're together. Why don't we do jigsaws?" So she goes.
They need to order a jigsaw shop on Coronation Street, I think.
They should have a game shop.
Set one up. Yeah, actually, a board games cafe. They're the new hip, trendy thing, aren't they?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a cafe.
No, but it could be.
No, but it would be another place where people just went and had a coffee, which is boring.
Yeah, but I'm so fed up of characters going to the cafe. Literally, whenever there's a scene in the cafe, I die a little bit inside. It's like,
do you?
Yeah, I do. I really, really do. It's like, here they are again. Why are they meeting up here? So let's have a board game cafe.
All right, board game cafe. Just to say,
like where the community centre is at the moment. That could be one, couldn't it?
Yeah, why not? So they go to see Dr. Gaddis, and she says, "Look, maybe this is psychological, and that is actually good because it means you don't need medicine. So I recommend you go to see a sex therapist." And across the nation, thousands of middle-aged people gasped in disgust, including us. A sex therapist?
Go to see one.
What?
No, let's invite her here, back to our house.
Yes.
We don't need a set for that.
Sally, whenever I think of sex therapists, I just think of what was it? Meet the Fockers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because
what is that actress?
Oh,
She's a really, really famous actress.
Look it up.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, we'll look this up.
It must. Okay, right. I'm not even gonna try to guess. Sally finds Tim on Maxine's bench. He's sulking. He's not happy about this. He doesn't want to see a sex therapist. He has to tell Sally because she wasn't in the appointment with him. Sally's like, oh great, yeah, why don't we do it? Yeah, let's go for it. But he's not keen. Then in the pub,
Barbara Streisand.
I knew it was her.
I thought I was going to say her as well.
I knew it was
I was going to say Bette Midler.
Oh well, they're also
Barbara Streisand is different.
They're so interchangeable.
She's so funny.
It's so good. I love that. It's just brilliant, isn't it?
Meet the Fockers too, absolutely brilliant. Honestly, Wednesday's episode, which was Comedy Gold with Audrey already, had some amazing scenes with Tim and Sally, didn't they? But we shall get onto that shortly.
Are we going to see... We're going to see the Tim and Sally sex therapy scene, aren't we?
Oh, we saw it.
Did we?
Yeah.
I thought it was a donkey lady.
No, the sex therapist comes round as well.
Gross.
She makes them look into each other's eyes, remember? And then she's got rose petals scattered about. You must have been looking at the iPad.
I was like, I'm sorry, I'm too English for this. I'm going to shut down like someone's robot. Sally finds out, or she tells Tim that they've got an appointment and he has to go because it's £75, but that's just the introductory rate. Mm-hmm. And it gets more expensive from there. Now, I thought this was quite funny how reluctant Tim is, and I'm going to generalise here, how reluctant Tim was to spend £75 plus on his sex life, knowing what I know about how much money other men spend on getting themselves off. I would imagine that spending it on your wife and you getting off should be easier to stomach.
Completely cringing at the idea of talking about his bits and bobs.
Oh yeah,
the ins and outs of his sex life. As Sally said, there aren't been any ins and outs at the moment. As I would be. Yeah. I think. I can't. I don't know what's more cringy, like the idea of Max's meeting two veg men put over on the internet, or speaking to someone about it. I hate it.
On Wednesday, Gary and Maria get accosted by a lady who's from the South Weatherfield
Donkey Sanctuary. And this is to do with the Tim story.
And she gets £5. Now remember, the South Weatherfield Donkey Sanctuary, because the North Weatherfield Donkey Sanctuary.
That was brilliant. When she, I can't remember how it was brought up, but it's because
she's having a feud.
No, yeah, she has, but Maria and Gary say, "Oh, we already donate, don't they?" And she's like, "Not the North Weatherfield Donkey Sanctuary," and it was hilarious. But just the idea that there are two donkey sanctuaries in Weatherfield, that was a really well written and delivered line. It was great. It
was really funny. It was like a window into a world of pettiness that we have no idea about.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Tim and Sally discuss, they're getting the house ready for the sex therapist to come round, and Tim's like, don't talk about it. And they mention chocolate fingers, because why would you not throw that in?
Yeah, Sally says, oh, I'll go and get a chocolate finger for Dev.
For Dev? This is part of our problem, Sally. Giving your chocolate fingers to Dev. Tim invites the donkey woman in, because she thinks, he thinks she's a sex therapist. And they're both sitting down, and they're having a cross-purposes conversation.
So good.
Because he's talking about he's trying to sort of hint at it, and his obscure language is not really hitting. She's not understanding what he's saying.
The look of bafflement on her face.
And he's like he starts talking about he's not gay, or like talking.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's like, how do you feel about donkeys? And he's like, oh, we're both blowing each other's minds here. Sally comes in, and it slowly dawns on Tim.
I felt that scene could have gone on a little bit longer.
I really wanted more of that.
They could have ridden that out for a little bit more. Like, even if Sally had thought that it was the sex therapist and not the donkey sanctuary woman, but
it was funny for the little that we got was hilarious.
But we were also treated to a couple of other scenes of this donkey lady across the episode, wasn't she? She was in the Rovers later.
She's my character of the week.
After this conversation, knocking back the shots or whatever it was, because she had been mentally scarred by Tim telling her about his and Sally's sex life. And then later on, she's in Victoria Street, isn't she? And Tim's walking from Co-op, and she's walking towards the tram station, and she like ducks inside going, oh, it's him. I thought that was brilliant, and they did not need to do that. She wasn't needed outside that first scene, but the fact that they gave her things to do for the rest of the episode, I think they knew that they were onto something funny there. So
funny, brilliant, well done, Coronation.
But don't bring her back again, because it will be making it too, it's like if you say the joke too many times, the same joke too many times, it stops being funny, doesn't it? I think that if they brought her back, they'd try to recapture what was so great about Wednesday's episode, and I don't think that they would do it. So you're a one and done woman, lady, but well done.
So the real therapist comes and gets him to sit.
Remember this, Gemma?
I remember this so vividly. I don't even need to look at the notes to tell you. She sits them cross-legged on the floor and she tells them to look into each other's eyes, and Tim finds this very awkward. And then at the end of the session, she says, remember, you must resist having sex for a few weeks. And Tim's like, well, I don't need to worry about that. That's what I'm doing at the moment. And the person says, you must find other ways of being intimate. And Tim's like, this is 75 quid. This is rubbish.
I think that Tim and Sally should do a podcast together.
A sex therapy podcast.
Yeah.
With Tim and Sally.
We don't even need to look into each other's eyes to do this, do we? I think most people who do podcasts do look at each other when they do it. I can imagine, like, you know, different people on opposite sides of a microphone, but we're just sitting next to each other because we're British.
But we're not touching.
No way.
Tim ends up in Victoria Gardens and Aggie is there and she's reading and he's acting very shifty, and so she asks him what's going on and he says he and Sally have a problem and Sally's got a mad idea to solve it, and she's like, look, why don't you solve it your own way? And so he goes home with flowers and Sally's doing the gardening and he says, look, I'm really sorry, maybe we should try some of this stuff. And then they try to do the eye looking activity again and they get the giggles and just bin it off.
That was really, really sweet. Because I imagine that sort of thing being working for some people, but the kind of characters that Sally and Tim are, it was just, nice and sweet that they both did get the giggles about it. I think we would as well if we tried.
I know, but the thing is though, in therapy, they might ask you to do some things that you find a bit weird and you don't know what the point of them are. But if you have to do them because you might find out more than you thought you would.
I'm awful at making eye contact with people at the best of times, so I don't know how I would manage this.
On Friday, Tim and Sally share an intimacy list, and I thought this was so funny and cringe because I've had my encounters with self-help many times over the years, and some of the things that they are like, make every day, write a list of 5 things that you're grateful for, and I just cannot do it because I am so cynical.
It just becomes across feeling cheesy. It
doesn't feel authentic to me at all to do this kind of thing. But Sally was just completely, it felt like she was a Pinterest board of wonderful, inspirational things that she enjoyed. And she's like, I enjoy visiting the stately homes of Cheshire and watching old films that bring me joy. And it was so sincere that it was completely alien to me. I was like, oh. And then Tim was like, Worthy County, Paul Weller, cheese. That's my list. And they both are still trying to maintain what I would say was a facade of going along with this idea. And Aggie can see them and she's like, oh, how lovely. Then Aggie later admits to Tim that she might be a bit jealous of the sauciness and the spark between Tim and Sally because she doesn't feel like she has that with Ed. But he can't really listen to this because he's got to rush off to have a date with Sally.
Do you think Ed takes his hat off when he goes to bed?
I don't know. But maybe it would help or not. It depends on what Aggie thinks about hats. So he ends up with the bistro for his lunch date and he's distracted because he knows that Aggie was looking for Ed and he sees Ed and Uncle Ronnie at the bar. So he's like texting Aggie like, here, by the way, if you need to know, this is where they are. And Sally's very annoyed because she's presented Tim with a beautiful cravat because Paul Weller wore a cravat once, and so therefore, obviously, Tim, his life goal is to wear one. And I have to say, she did a spectacular job because it matched very well with his shirt. And he puts it on. I thought that was sweet. He's like, oh, great. Like, Tim doesn't care about cravats and he's never wanted one in his life. But he's like, you know what? If that's how you interpreted my intimacy list, then by God, I'll wear it right now.
Yeah, it was fun.
So she's going on about fairy muffs.
What was that all about? It was classic Sally double entendre, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's not really listening because he's still texting. She gets annoyed and basically says, we're leaving, we're not going to even bother having food. So she's still in a huff with him later when they get back home. And he's like, look, sorry, I was texting Aggie because I saw Ed, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, that's not what we were supposed to be having a date. So she goes off and mopes in Victoria Gardens because she says, I'm not even going to bother wasting the rest of my day with you. I'm going back to work. But she doesn't. She goes to Victoria Gardens. And she meets up with Steve. How strange. She tells Steve that she feels like her and Tim's passion is over. And he says, look, no way. He's always going on about you. He loves you. He's obsessed with you. And he says something like, he's always defending you. And she's wait, what? So that was really funny. Because you know that everyone's like, God, that's Sally, tell you what. And if Tim heard that, you know that he would immediately defend her. So they go back and they have another date at the pub, and he's enraptured with her and listening to her talking about a load of old crap.
Hanging on her every word.
And then she returns the favour when they go home, because he says, oh, do you want to watch one of them boring films that you like? Not that he didn't say it like that, but he was like, let's watch Pride and Prejudice, the 10th version. And she's like, no, let's watch that time that Weddy County won 7-1. And eat some cheese. And they're like, yay, we can be friends, not just lovers.
Very sweet. I enjoyed everything about this story.
Yeah.
Considering where the story came from earlier this year, which was the you remember when it was the TMI story, and and Elaine was sticking her neb in and everything.
Yeah,
and
Elaine's absence
did not work
is the
for me.
strength here.
It really, really is, which is why I was one of the reasons why I was a bit nervous about Elaine coming back into the show on Friday, because Elaine can stay right away from the story as far as I'm concerned, because the Sally and Tim angle to it has been brilliant. I mean, remember when they had those spa scenes a month or so ago? That was all good. So I'm very happy that this story keeps on going. I don't know how much more kind of comedy or anything really that can be wrung out of it. It feels like they've done as much as they can do.
I feel like I really underestimated where this story was going and what the point of it was when it first started.
Yeah.
And it is so funny how repressed we both are. And I don't think we're unusual. Because it feels... I'm getting secondhand embarrassment from just watching it. And it's interesting. I feel like it's challenging me a little bit and taking me outside my comfort zone and making me think about things a bit more, and like how much do we need to really get into the nitty-gritty of things, and is it something that on the whole as a country we underestimate? Would we benefit more from being open about it, or
being a bit more European about it,
or like is it fine, like are we okay? I don't know. But, you know, if any characters were going to tackle this sort of story, it had to be Tim and Sally, because they're notoriously the most randy couple on the street.
Yeah, I think it's
some couples
very
I don't
well
think have ever even slept with each other.
Yeah, I mean,
certainly not for the last 2 years.
The idea of Aggie and Ed, like I'd never even thought about them like that, and now Aggie's saying that, you know, the spark has gone.
Yeah. Can I just say, I think the real problem that Tim and Sally have been battling, that I don't think they're aware of because they're only characters in a TV show, is that because of COVID they couldn't be in the same bed together. So maybe once the COVID restrictions have lifted from their bedroom, they might find the spark returns.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, the only other thing that I thought of, actually I saw somebody else online suggesting this, is could this lead to a Tim and Aggie affair?
Please God,
if she is, I don't need Aggie to ever have an affair, because as the longest standing married couple on Coronation Street at the moment, because they've been married a very long time before they came onto the show, Ed and Aggie need to stay together, really.
Also,
but I think that she's got her head screwed on. She's a very kind of serious...
Excuse me, she had an affair with Uncle Ronnie.
But she just dated Uncle Ronnie before Ed came along. Thank you very much.
Oh,
I would like to
Sorry
think...
for maligning you.
I would really, really like to think that she wouldn't have her head turned, but Coronation Street does have a tendency to make anybody and everybody drop their drawers for somebody they shouldn't, just for the sake of drama. And maybe Tim and Aggie are going to get a bit intimate together.
Please no, because honestly, Coronation Street, just remember that Tim and Sally and Aggie and Ed are actually the two strongest couples on the street.
Yeah, they don't need to split them up. Maybe it'll be Tim seeing Aggie in her nurse's uniform, and he's going to remember back to Sally when they were playing Naughty Nurses together. Maybe that's all it is, a little trigger.
I should slap you.
I very much hope not, but I'm still also enjoying Aggies'
Any time on a
this.
soap when two characters who aren't married or dating look or talk to each other,
I know, it gets me a bit nervous. It's like, are they going to be at it?
Sounds.
Yeah. So that was good stuff this week, as was the return of the Game of Thorns storyline, which was also slightly Aggie related, although I don't think... Did she have anything to do with it this week? I can't remember. Because Peter was still trying to get more evidence against Thorn, wasn't he? And I think up to this point, Aggie has refused to put her head above the parapet and condemn her former boss. Because Peter's informant is Aggie's colleague, isn't it, at the moment? And I think Aggie has said, no,
Aggie's point is that she hasn't been around him long enough. Yeah. Although she was the one that was the whistleblower about his...
Yeah, she was. Anyway, there wasn't a whole lot. This was a bit of a warming up of this story, wasn't there? Wednesday's episode was mostly about Peter and Carla talking about new flooring because their freezer has leaked or something and they need to get a new one.
I was like, this is so relatable. Yes, this is what happens.
We've had freezer problems of our own this past week. The ice maker of our freezer stopped working. It was very
Can you believe it? Everybody listen. Our ice maker
in our American style fridge.
Hot. We couldn't get any ice. And you know what I had to do? I had to buy a bag of ice and put it in the ice dispenser. I was like, you know what? This is not what my life should be about. There's
one great thing. There were many good things about this new house, but the nice thing was that the couple who lived here last left us a giant fridge freezer.
It's like
amazing,
the most luxurious. I could never have dreamed when I was a child.
Piece of white goods I've ever owned.
Yeah, I was like this. I feel like if I went back in time and told myself as like a 10-year-old, I'd be like, okay, I know what I'm working for now.
Well, I remember like 15 years ago when I first went round Rachel and Lorraine's house and they had an American fridge freezer. I thought it was the height of luxury.
Unimaginable wealth and decadence.
Yeah, and now we've got one. But everybody, the problem still stands that we don't know how to change the filter. If anyone's got any idea about how to find or change the filter on your American style, what brand is it? I don't know. Samsung fridge freezer. Please write in and let us know.
We don't know if it's an internal or an external filter.
We've looked all inside. There's nothing there.
It's really
but we can't get around the back of it, and we've got this flashing red light on the front that says "Change your filter now." And we're going to have gritty ice cubes.
I don't know. I mean, I look at Max and I think, you think you've got problems. I look at Audrey and say, yeah, you're getting old, but you know where your fridge filter is, don't you? So shut up.
Yeah.
You don't have problems.
Anyway.
I'll tell you what would solve the problem.
What?
£100,000 from Dr. Thorne. That would solve the problem because we just pay somebody to come and look.
Yeah. Oh, we also found out some sad news, going completely away from it, that the guy who used to own this house, he died at Christmas time, we found this week, didn't we? Poor old Paul. So we bought this house last year, obviously, from Paul and Sandra, who are a really, really lovely couple. And Paul had to have a kidney transplant last year. And when we met up with him in, July time,
We first came to this house in April.
Yeah, we came to the house in April and he was on the list to get a kidney transplant. And then we came back in July and I think he just had one then. And he was like saying, oh, everything's brilliant now and a new lease of life and everything.
Very depressing.
I know, it's really depressing, but we just found out that he died at Christmas, so that's very sad.
Why did you say that?
I'll just say about everything that happened. Okay, I'll give you some bad news. I will veer back on. No, I'll give you some good news.
Okay.
This is my happy thing that happened this week, and you know this, and I meant to mention this at the beginning of the podcast, but I forgot. But I had the most brilliant, happy, joyful experience on Friday. So I was at the university. I take the children to the university where they have their swimming lessons every Friday afternoon. And after it was all done and I was in the corridor ready to go back to school, this really tall, lanky chap comes up to me and he goes, "Are you Mr. Dodson?" I was like, yeah, what have we done wrong? And he was like, "You used to teach me." And I was like, and I looked up at him and it's like, I do not remember this guy whatsoever. And I've never had this happen to me. Your mum always says that this has happened to her, isn't it? She says, oh, one of the things about being a teacher is occasionally you'll get these really stocky guys coming up to you going, "Oh, no, Miss Cox, you remember when you taught me?" And it's never happened to me before. I've sometimes had like year 7s coming back to school, like in the first year of secondary school, saying, "Hello, I just want to say hello." But I've never had somebody of this chap's age. meet up with me, and he's like, and I said, what's your name? And he told me, and this was so brilliant because he was in my very, very first class as a teacher. So back in 2007, when I had my first class, and I think that's your first class is always a bit special when you're a teacher because it's where you cut your teeth in the profession. And I remember him being the nicest kid. He was like one of my favourite children in the class, and I've got good memories of lots of children in that class. And it was him, and I was like, and I looked at his face, I was like, oh my gosh, it is you. And he was like this beanpole, this guy, he's massive, absolutely huge, and he had stubble all over his face, but I looked down and I can remember what he was like when he was 10, and I was like, how old are you now? And he's like, I'm 25 now, I'm doing a PhD here at the university. Obviously would never have happened without the excellent start in life that I gave him in year 5, but yeah, he's doing a PhD in water science or something, and that's why he was there at the swimming pool. And it absolutely made my day seeing this boy, because his mum works at the university as well, the chemistry department, and occasionally over the years when I've walked through the university, because we have to go there sometimes, I've seen the chemistry department. I think, I wonder how this kid's doing now. And just to be able to see him out of the blue on Friday was absolutely made me so happy. It was a reunion that I never thought that I would have with this kid who is now 25 doing a PhD. I was absolutely made up. I was walking on air on Friday because of that.
That's so sweet.
So happy. That was my lovely experience.
Are you proud?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he probably could have managed a PhD without me, but you never know. You
instilled in him a love of learning, obviously.
Yeah.
You didn't put him off.
I didn't put him off learning completely. He hasn't gone off on one or down a dodgy path. But he said he'd seen me a couple of times that I'd been there, but this was the first week that he spoke to me, and I kind of hope that he comes and says hello to me next week as well, because since seeing him, I'm like, I've got a load of questions that I could ask him now. But anyway, sorry, that was a complete sorry for everybody that doesn't like going off on tangents, but I just want you to know I was very, very happy on Friday. Anyway, so the story with Peter on Wednesday, going back to that, is
you remember
Sarah
Coronation Street?
Remember Coronation Street, that thing that we're doing a podcast about? Yeah. You think I was happy? Well, just wait until you see Sarah when she finds out that Carla and Peter are getting a new flooring, and she's like, this is right in my ballpark here. I could tell you all about flooring. Come over to my house, look at our flooring, and Carla doesn't look impressed by this. And then she's kind of bemoaning the prospect of complimenting Sarah's decor or Harry's pasta artwork as she's walking towards Victoria Court later, which was just brilliant. And I've not been, Carla's biggest fan in recent years, but I could very much identify with this. Not that any of our friends have got kids, have they either?
I've never been forced to look at
I can
pasta
only
art.
imagine having to compliment somebody's pasta artwork. Anyway, so Sarah... Nothing kind of happens. They don't go off and do this in the end, do they? I can't remember why, but anyway, the revelation at the end...
No, it's because Adam's like, oh, hang on a minute. No, I need to talk to you.
About Dr. Thorne, Mr. Thorne.
Yeah, Mr. Thorne, sorry.
That's right. So Carla has to go and see Sarah's pasta artwork herself. Anyway, it sounds like Thorne has got away with it about doing his old social media photographing of Peter's... liver, wasn't it? Which is another...
He didn't... It wasn't... Was it social media?
Yeah, he put it on his... Yeah, that's how it was found. Hang on. He put it on his private social media, I thought. I'm pretty sure that's true.
No, he made a bet.
Yeah, he made a bet
that he could... somebody else do it?
No. I thought the story was that he made a bet that he would be able to whip...
Yeah, he made that bet.
Peter's liver in and out within the shortest amount of time, which he did. But then also he showed a picture of himself saying anyone for foie gras. Inappropriate. Which he put on social media. Which is maybe Max would be able to identify with Peter in this situation. Yeah. He's also got prospects of having some private parts. Exactly. This is all of these stories that I think they're all building up to something.
It's about bodily autonomy.
They're all tying together nicely.
If only we all had autonomy.
Yes. Anyway, Peter is absolutely fuming to hear that Thorne's got away with this. He calls the nurse and he says, "Is there anybody else at the hospital who could help me here?" And it doesn't seem like he's having much luck. On Friday's episode, Peter is in the cafe with Carla and Ken having another moan about Thorne. Apparently the ruling is next week, so look out in upcoming episodes that this story is going to come to a head of sorts, which sounds a bit of a shame because although I was happy to see Thorne again on Friday, I'm so enjoying this actor's portrayal of this dastardly surgeon that I was kind of hoping it'd go on for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But anyway, he says, I want Simon to shame him on social media or something, and Ken says,
I don't
look,
think
just
Simon's
let it
got
go.
the clout.
Do you not reckon?
I don't think so.
Not very many followers does Simon Barlow.
What do you reckon his username is like?
Oh, didn't we found out what his Xbox username was? Do you remember last year when Sharon was hacking into Ardy's Xbox? I can't remember what he called himself now. But I
bet he's called like Wethy Bad Boy 4.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so Peter goes off to the Platt intervention for the Audrey storyline. Then he comes home and just to have another moan about Thorne again to Ken and Simon.
I'm sick of it.
Who, for some reason, Ken is looking through his old clippings catalogue, his clippings box from when he was working at the newspaper.
Well, as somebody who's like worked in print for what is it?
Many
nearly
years.
20, like 18, 20 years. He was an editor of a newspaper, and he was also a journalist. And his collection of clips was so meagre. It's like I couldn't even collect my clips.
Anyway, this is
and he's like, one of the clips he saved. This is what made me laugh. Was that he's obviously, this must be a curated collection of clips, because there's no way he's got his whole career in there. Yes, sorry, clippings. There's no way he's got his whole career in there, because he's worked for so long that it would be stacks high. But he's saved one bit, which was him slagging off Peter. Yeah. And Peter was like, oh yeah, I remember that. You know what? That wasn't my finest hour, was it? I got totally drunk. Why is Ken holding on to this? A bitter old man.
I wonder whether he's got any clippings of that time that he was the agony aunt for the newspaper as well, just for the lols.
I hope he's got a copy of his first novel too there somewhere.
Anyway, what comes out, I think the whole point of this is so that Peter could see Ken's dictaphone, which it completely went over my head in the next scene, which was Peter summoning Thorne to Seb's garden. As you do, where better place to have a meeting with your rival than a garden down Victoria?
Well,
Victoria
a very
Street.
Public place where
I really want somebody to tell all their secrets. Let's do it in a public place.
They'll definitely feel off. They'll definitely let their guard down in this public garden.
But anyway, Thorne sees right through him and says, "Look, I know you're pulling the whole record the confession on your phone trick." And Peter kind of sheepishly gets it out and is like, "Yeah, sorry."
First of all, he says the General Medical Council are not going to strike me off. They haven't got enough evidence.
Oh,
that's
right. That's right.
You don't have any power. You can't strike a deal with me. I don't know what you think you're playing.
I win. Yeah, Peter pulls the phone out of his pocket and goes, "You got me there." And then this is when Thorne starts crowing about how Machiavellian and dastardly he is and how smart.
You're no match for me, you pleb.
Yes.
You don't even have an ice maker on your fridge.
Bet they do. Bet Carla's the sort that would want to have an ice maker for all their gin
but they're
and
broke
teas
now,
stuff.
Aren't they?
Oh yeah, they are, aren't they?
They're living in poverty.
Yeah.
Which means making your own ice cubes.
Do they live in the flat above streetcars at the moment?
Well, it's wherever it is the floor leaked.
I think it's the one that Steve and Tracy and Liz used to live in together. But never mind that. Anyway, Peter reveals he has got a backup recording device, Ken's dictaphone, so he's got this confession on tiny tape.
There was a weird conversation about devices and
machines or something.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. So Thorne is absolutely desperate at this point. Starts throwing bundles of cash at him, sort of the offers of bundles of cash. And it was like £5,000, no, £10,000. And Peter's like, no good, I'm taking it to the authorities.
No, Peter says, even if you gave me £100,000, it wouldn't work. And Thorne's like, well, I can give you £100,000. And I was like,
okay, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah.
So how about £200,000?
Like, did Peter really suffer that much from what Thorne did? He had a nice quick liver operation. Yeah, his kidney was shown on social media, but he might have never known about it. Nobody knows it was him. It hasn't happened to me, but I'm thinking that possibly if I was in Peter's situation, and I know he's being very honourable and saying, well, if I take him down now, he's not going to do this to anyone else there, but I might be willing to say, go on, Ben. Yeah, but got £100,000.
You've not been in a situation where you've been completely vulnerable with medical professionals who have literally their life in your hand, and you know that they might make comments, and you know that they might say things, but you can't prove it, and you just have to believe, you know, that if they do that, it's a safety valve for themselves. I don't begrudge that sort of thing, but just to have evidence and to know that somebody did that to you and abused you at your most vulnerable and took advantage of you for a joke.
I know it's horrible, but still, he's going over to America now, isn't he?
If somebody gave me £100,000, I'd say, I'd get the joke.
I'd be very tempted. That is funny,
I
isn't
can
it?
afford
I
my
get
own
it.
foie
They make
gras
foie gras
now.
and livers. Yeah, you have foie gras for breakfast, lunch and dinner every day. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, the hearing's going to be next week, isn't it? This is another one where I was kind of thinking there should have been like a final scene, and unless there wasn't, I missed it, where Peter was kind of mulling it over, and maybe what would Carla want him to do?
Well, Carla heard him shouting £100,000, so it's going to be interesting because I think Coronation Street might be a bit reluctant to make Carla seem like a money grabber.
Although she is used to living the life of luxury, isn't she? She's had her swish apartments and everything, and if she's now kind of slumming it, and even the freezer's leaking, then she might be tempted to say, go on then. But Peter is so bloody honourable, isn't he? It
feels like, what's the word? A physical, tangible benefit that can be enjoyed.
Yeah.
Versus satisfaction. Because...
Yeah, just imagine if he took Thorne down, and would he just be sitting there? I know Peter can be insufferably smug, but would he be sitting there on his sofa with his glass of orange juice just thinking, I'm so glad I didn't take that £100,000. I think the sneaking feeling of actually maybe I should have taken it would be come around quite soon.
It depends on how much that money would hurt him. You want to hurt him, don't you? You want to sort of say, you hurt me and you don't recognise that, so you must be hurt in a similar fashion. Because that's kind of what justice is, really, isn't it? It's you didn't recognise the hurt that you've dished out, so we're going to hurt you in a way that's going to affect you.
Yeah. That's
kind of what... I mean, I know that we say, you know, as long as the person doesn't do it again, etc. But that's kind of what Peter wants. What is there actually a number that would make Thorne think twice?
I don't know. The other thing as well, I suppose, it's not just a sense of smug satisfaction that Peter might get if he's able to take Thorne down in court next week. I guess that he would have some kind of compensation paid to him, so maybe he thinks he can get more than £100,000 out of him.
I don't think that is his motivation.
No, it's not, but I suppose he would get some cash from it.
He wouldn't get anywhere near that much.
No, it wouldn't be that much. It wouldn't be that much, for sure.
You'd have to prove that you were damaged for that amount of money, and he hasn't been.
No, he's barely been in the show, let alone psychologically.
Like, if you could say, look, I haven't been able to work. I normally earn X amount of money. I haven't been able to work because I've been really depressed, and it's affected me mentally, and it's affected me in this, that, and the other way, and this is how much money I think that is worth. Then you could say, well, give me £100,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because this is a bribe, isn't it? This is not compensation. This is a bribe.
This is a bribe for him to keep stum. But the risk is that he doesn't know whether he's going to get enough evidence. So I wonder whether, because Aggie has been in the show in the Sally and Tim storyline this week, whether she's also going to be sucked back into this one, and is Peter going to be kind of trying to persuade her to say her thing against Thorne as well? Not that her word counts so much because she's not been there for long, but I don't know.
I wonder how... The thing is, I think that what Peter really wants out of this is to outsmart Thorne.
Because he's such a smug git, isn't he?
It's not just even that. I think it's because Thorne thinks, I'm rich, therefore I'm better, therefore I'm clever and smarter than you. You can't outsmart me at any point. And it's really just that Peter wants to sort of say... No, you're not as smart as you think you are, actually. And he's done that already.
Yeah, he's got him sweating.
Yeah, and I think that would be a satisfaction for me.
Yeah, but if Thorne wins this next week, or if the case is dropped or whatever... He's not going to, but if he did, then he would... I'm sure he'd be able to quickly get over these feelings of...
Who, Thorne?
Thorne.
Oh, he's slimy. He's got no self-introspection, has he?
No.
So I wonder whether Peter might trick him into like, all right, okay, you give me £100,000, and then Thorne be like, well, you must never speak of this again. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, you can have a gentleman's agreement and then completely Welsh on it, couldn't they?
No, go back on it.
Yeah. So I don't. We'll see. We'll see. I'm quite looking forward to seeing this. I just want it to end with Thorne. I just want it to end with Thorne becoming a regular character somehow. I don't know how that's going to happen.
No, it wouldn't be interesting. This is what you said about you. The same is true of this character as what you said about the Donkey Sanctuary lady. They perform a very definite function in the story, and beyond that, too much of them would not be a good thing.
But then you might have said that about Pat Phelan after his first 3 episodes, mightn't you?
But
we all know what happened then.
But I didn't.
You did not. You did not. Right. Speaking of villains, Gemma. Wendy Crozier, Papadopoulos. I was wrong last week. I said that Papadopoulos was the funny name that they used on Birds of a Feather, and it's actually Theodopoulos, isn't it? That's Sharon's surname. Nobody corrected me on it, but just want you to know, I do know.
On Monday, things seem to be going well for Wendy, Abby and Alfie, and the audacity of Wendy to have a white sofa while she's hosting a mother and baby unit. Who does she think she is?
She's bold, that one.
She's so bold. Wendy is teaching her that she has to let the baby cry itself to sleep. I thought that was really interesting because Abby's like, does Abby really never... She's had 3 babies now. She never thought of that when she was a drug addict, that the babies might just cry themselves to sleep.
She didn't look after the babies, did she? She probably did leave them cry themselves to sleep, yeah. But she is with Alfie is wanting to show I am doing absolutely everything I can to meet his every need. And then Wendy's saying, no, you don't need to do everything, though.
That's the point of the scene, isn't it? Yeah. It's to show that she's ready and willing to go above and beyond, but perhaps she might be a bit overzealous. Wendy and Abby agree to go out together so they can chat over some bits and bobs. And Abby says, look, can we go see Kevin? And she's like, oh, is that on Coronation Street?
Kevin off Corrie?
Maybe, that's fine. And she's like, do you know anyone on Emmerdale? Because I watched that one. I don't watch Corrie anymore. Wendy is hurrying down the street, looking over her shoulder like she's stolen something from Dev's. And Abby sees Kevin, runs over to him, and they get chatting. And Abby's like, you know what? Wendy's acting a bit weird. And Kevin's like, I think I recognise her, actually.
That's what I said last week. Like, they were on the show together back in the late 80s, but I didn't know whether Kevin had anything to do with Wendy.
I don't think I'd recognise her.
I don't think I would either. She does look quite different.
No, I just think I'm face blind.
She's aged nicely, but she doesn't look exactly the same now as she did in 1990, as do none of us.
Abby's like, I reckon she's trying to avoid somebody here. And then Wendy comes over and says, we've got to go to the clinic. We've got to have Alfie's checkup. So they walk past the florists, and out pops Tracy, like one of those sand eels coming out of a hole. And she says, here we are. Who's this? It's bloody Wendy Flaming Crozier. I don't know what she says. And Wendy's like, oh no. She runs away, and Tracy's like, yeah, that's right. Never come back here again, you horrible old cow.
Yeah, Abby's just left completely confused at this about why is Tracy accosting innocent old women in the street.
So back at the house, Abby's like, Wendy, what was going on? And she says, look, okay, I don't want to mention this, but me and Ken have got a bit of history, and I don't want to kiss and tell. And Abby's trying to dig for dirt, but Wendy's like, just go on Coropedia, I'm not telling you. There's been books written about it.
There was even a documentary on the telly the other month about Kit, and he's supposed to
If you were interested, you would have watched it then, okay?
And that was it, which is really disappointing because they brought back Wendy. It was Friday last week, wasn't it? So we've only got 2 episodes so far of Wendy Flaming Crozier. And it's like, you don't bring a character back to then ignore them for the best part of the following week. What's going on? I don't know. I'm still not completely sure what purpose her being back on the street is going to have, like what avenue they're going down. But, at least give us a bit more than this. It's like with Stephen, he's back now. I want to see Stephen for a lot of next week. Otherwise, it feels like it's a waste of time bringing them back. And maybe they're just giving Georgia Taylor and Sally Carman a bit of a rest because they've been so full on for the past few months. And I don't think we saw Toya at all in this week's Coronation Street, did we? Aww. She's too busy hermiting herself.
But she was going to be my character of the week.
Toya cannot be your character of the week next week, but This week, yeah, but I do believe that she is going to be in it next week, Gemma. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler, everybody, but Toya is in it next week.
Toya's in the show?
Toya is in the show next week, yes.
I'm excited because I feel like this is a tribute to your birthday.
What?
that is building up with lots of Toya.
Yeah, it's nice.
She liked Toya.
Nice.
And then Coronation Street's like, we have to plan something big for Michael's birthday.
The thing is with this though is this suddenly turned into a story about Wendy now, whereas before it's like, you know, about Abby and Alfie and everything. Is it now the story of Wendy
Flaming
going back with Ken? I don't know really.
But this is the question: what is she going to do with Ken?
I don't know. Oh,
You've broken the bloody
broken
sofa.
The button on our new sofa. Oh, I knew that would happen. Yeah, I don't know. She's obviously just trying to avoid him. It's nice that Tracy was there getting Aurora. And I don't know whether... I can't remember whether Tracy met Wendy when she was in it 10 years ago, and does she remember her from then? Because I wouldn't have thought that she would have recognised her from when she was, 13 or so.
Maybe that face is just emblazoned in her mind.
Maybe. Although Tracy has probably got a list, hasn't she, of people that she wants to off.
That's what I've got,
and Wendy Crosey would certainly be on that. So Anyway, this was...
I find it very healthy to plot revenge for years and years and years.
Nothing much to say about this one because they didn't give it anywhere near enough time as they needed. Onto the Maria storyline. What a load of rubbish. So, victory for Maria. We start off with Wednesday. They're getting separate bins for glass in Weatherfield.
They really should have had this already.
It does make you wonder how many places do and don't have that, because we've got our own glass bins, haven't we?
But
some people, I can't remember whether Dad does.
I think they put them all in the same bin.
Yeah, I think there are lots of places that
it's not that they don't recycle the glass, it's that they separate it later.
Yeah, so
supposedly.
Yeah,
you would hope that they do that.
We've got a little grey one, haven't we, that goes out every fortnightly with your cider bottles. And Maria's all full of it because she's able to have brought this to Weatherfield. Gary's telling everybody in the pub later, and Kirk's not impressed by this because I'm glad that they did have some people saying this, like, what's the point? This has just given me another thing to think about when I'm recycling. Although obviously recycling is important, it would be wrong for them to have everybody just accepting it of like, isn't this brilliant? Everybody loves recycling, because they don't.
The same thing about recycling, and that is that you have to make it as user friendly and simple as you can, because you'll always find people that cannot do it.
You're fighting against lazy people.
You have to make it easy, and that's why I think. And this is why it annoyed me when people talked about straws, because it's like the recycling company just said we can't recycle straws, and I thought, all right, so how long have you been doing this then? You've been doing how many years have you just been taking our straws and going throw them in the river because I can't? Did it never strike you that you could recycle the straws or make a machine that recycled straws?
Yeah.
And everyone just went, okay, well, we'll use paper straws then. Well,
get soggy straws on your frappuccinos.
Well, it just kind of annoyed me because it completely shifted. Like, they completely managed to shift the blame onto consumers without taking any responsibility for it, and everybody just let it slide. I know it's an easy thing to do, to change to paper straws, and everyone's fine with it now, but it just made me feel like, no, the responsibility is on you as a recycler to develop technology to recycle straws.
Well, if you believe the recyclers on Coronation Street, they're not into this at all, because they've gone on strike by the end of Wednesday's episode because they think that having this extra bin to take out is for no extra pay, it seems. And I kind of see where they're coming from. Definitely. A little bit. There's like, no thank you very much. And also the bin men go on strike in solidarity as well. So Maria started off the day with victory, and by the end of it she's now got piles of rubbish littering Weatherfield because everyone's gone on strike.
The thing is, though, here, because I asked the council this and I got a direct answer, it's the same people. The recycling people and the bin people, it's the same. Collectors. It's the same people. Because I said, if I leave a present out, do I need to leave one for the recycling people? And
give them a Christmas present.
I always give them a Christmas present, and that's why when we moved house, they were like, "Don't worry, we'll take all your extra." See, you're nice to people; they're nice to you back. Why should they be nice to you if they even know who you are?
See, Corrie missed the trick here, I think, because on Friday's episode, Maria, after getting her lesson on who Rosa Parks is from Roy. Which, come on now. They should have just had her say or watch Doctor Who about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jimmy the lead bin man comes in, or whoever he was, but that should have...
Jimmy the lead refuse collector.
Yes, I know.
Thank you.
It should have been Curly. This could have been the opportunity to get Curly back into the show.
Oh no,
what's going on there, Alexa?
Excited.
Yeah, well, yeah. Kevin Kennedy has been desperately trying to get back to Corrie for many years now, and he could have returned to his roots as a bin man and rose up the ranks to be chief of them.
Yeah, chief of them.
But instead they got this guy called Jimmy
tribe.
anyway. So Maria's trying to do her hashtag speak and save the planet with Jimmy speech, but he's not interested. He said, people have had enough of your empty words. And then in the street later, Maria's accosted by the press about her so-called green agenda. She does her sound bites before clopping off to go and see
She's
Gary.
very pleased with herself.
She was. She said, all you need to know is what you want to say and twist their question to make it fit it. Yeah, exactly. So she's very pleased with herself.
But I thought she knows what she's talking to. That's what you do if you're a politician.
She's been doing this for months now.
Months.
However, she by the end of the episode, she finds herself. She's been cassette boyed, hasn't she?
Can't believe it.
And who is... I haven't seen a cassette boy thing for ages, but he's absolutely hilarious, where you can take news clips or whatever and string them together, usually in song, to make different sentences. So, Maria has had her quotes chopped up so that she's now saying, put me on your waste disposal, and I am talking rubbish.
Brilliant.
And this is absolutely hilarious. And even like, she's watching it with Kelly and Gary, isn't she? And Kelly can barely contain her amusement.
Kelly thinks it's hilarious, and Gary's like,
Gary just says it's
good,
clever. And poor Maria's left there with egg on her face.
Yeah.
And it's bad in a way, isn't it? Because it is literally making fun of somebody who is really, really doing a good job. But we are also laughing at Maria because it's Maria.
I think there's an important...
she's a dullard. ...thing
to say here about how the responsibility, like I was just saying about straws, the responsibility of looking after the planet, does it get shifted to people who, like, is there something here to say about Maria sort of being a middle class person, shifting the responsibility to the working class people who are the refuse collectors who are now expected to do extra work?
Does Maria need to get them to collect the glass herself?
Or does she need to actually think a bit more about how she can facilitate this in a better way that doesn't mean that people lose out? But the other thing I'm always thinking about this is that we can't carry on like it is. Someone's going to lose out. We're all going to lose out. We can't carry on.
I know.
And she was kind of right. She said this to Jimmy, but Jimmy was echoing of an often repeated sentiment, which I sympathise with completely. Is like, we're fed up with hearing about this. It's depressing, and I can't do anything about it. But the one thing you're asking me to do, I don't want to do. It's.
I suppose they're doing a good job on Coronation Street of showing that it feels like an unwinnable battle and a massively uphill struggle for anyone who wants to care for the environment.
Jimmy's like, well, I don't care. I don't even believe it. I think he was saying that too. Like, we've heard this for years now, so what? And I...
But I don't know how...
I like the fact that they're showing lots of different opinions.
I do as well. I just don't know where the story's going, and I don't know how Maria can win, because if she doesn't win, then...
The planet loses.
Yeah, so she's got to come out smelling her roses in the end, but what will that look like?
Yeah,
will
that's
she
true.
just
That's a good
will
question.
she just have her glass bins and then that's her triumph and that's the pinnacle of her time as councillor?
Yeah, and that's
I don't
not really
know.
I mean, that's only what other people already do, so I don't think that shows progress, is it?
No, not really. It's and you know that she will get bored of it because characters get interested in something for the sake of a storyline and then they forget about it. I don't imagine in 10 years' time Maria will give two hoots about the environment.
I think we all will.
Well, maybe we will. Maybe we'll be forced to, but yeah, it's like it's like with Craig and his OCD, isn't it? Maria is obsessive about the environment at the moment, but just like how we can't have Craig talking about it all the time. They can't have Maria going on about it for ages.
I think this is they're playing a long game here. This is what I'm going to say. We know that Coronation Street cares about the environment because they have their green duck.
They do have their green duck at the end of the episode, yes.
And I think that it is a sensible thing to be worried about. And I think that the more people worry about it, the better we're off.
I think lots of people thinking it's a sensible thing to worry about, so I hope somebody else worries about it for me.
I think you're right. Problem. But you see, I'm going to call Maria the Joan of Arc of recycling, where she fought against people that didn't take her seriously, and she eventually triumphed, and now all of France recycles. Is that what happened?
Yeah, something like that.
You know what I mean? She's campaigning. She's standing up. I
just wish that she was more likeable as a character.
Yeah, but she's going to triumph, isn't she? Like,
she's going to try.
You know, not being taken seriously, being mocked, being denigrated, and then eventually she will get people to understand. I really hope so.
I hope so too, but then if she triumphs, will I not like it? Because it's Maria triumphing. I'll be like...
But we all win
smug.
if Maria wins.
Okay. I will take what I'm interested in. I want to know, and maybe some other listeners can help me out on this one, do the other soaps... Are they carrying on their environmental storylines? Because this all was the crossover last year, wasn't it? Last autumn time was it when they did the soap crossover, and every soap had a story about environment. So you had, I can't remember any of them now. What was the one in EastEnders? They were setting up
burgers.
How was that to do with the environment? Veggie burgers.
Yeah,
or something.
Because eating meat is bad for the environment.
Yeah, and I can't remember what the other soaps did. Do the others have as much of a long game with this as Coronation Street, or have they all given up at this point? Because Coronation Street does like getting the greenest soap certificate or whatever it is that they receive, don't they?
But it does feel like it's kind of like the pursuit of the idle rich to concern themselves with fannying around with bits of glass, recycling them, and it's not something that working class people worry about or can have time to, and it's an added burden, and I feel that there are justified reasons for thinking that, but the unfortunate truth is that climate change will affect working class people and poor people across the planet far worse than it will the people that, you know, are the so-called middle class
that can make the change.
fannying around. Yeah. So I think that Coronation Street, if that's where they're heading with this kind of theme, it would, I don't know, is Maria going to sort of find a champion within the ranks of the refuse collectors? I don't know. It feels like we need that kind of broad spectrum of people from different backgrounds all standing together and saying, actually, this is very important.
Yeah.
But also, Maria needs to have thought more about how she's burdening people and how she can make it easy. And like I said, you have to make it easy for people or they won't do it. You can't just say this is important, so you have to do it because I've said so.
Let's move on. Brand new Brian Gemma. Quickly, what was Brian up to on Monday? I've actually forgotten.
So,
apart from the salmon trousers.
Rita's telling Evelyn about how Brian's done a disappearing act after
Kathy.
Kathy's gone. And
she's getting on.
Then Evelyn goes...
got the place wrong that she moved to last week, didn't we? Somebody told us.
Sorry.
What did we say? I don't remember. Chorley, maybe? I don't know. Chorley, one of the two. We said the wrong one. Cardiff.
It's like saying Portsmouth when you mean Portswood, you idiots. So, Rita's in the cabin, tells Evelyn, Brian's done a disappearing act. So then Evelyn talks about that with Roy, and she thinks that she's going to do things silly, like have it out with Jim Fizz. So eventually, Brian does come into the cafe and he has got a brand new wardrobe, which is going to suit his warmer life down in the sunny south. He's got a satin cherub patterned shirt, he's got his pink trousers, and he's got his navy blazer. And can confirm, as Southerners, this is the wardrobe.
That's what we all wear.
Yeah. I'm wearing it right now. He's excited. He can't wait to move. And Roy's like, are you okay? Because, you know, Kathy's left. And he's like, I don't mind. I'm totally fine.
Unconvincing.
Yeah. He sits and chats with Roy and Evelyn. And she's like, you know what? Your clothes aren't going to make any difference. And Roy says, so what you're saying is Brian and I are so irredeemably boring that any attempt to enhance our appearance would be futile. And Evelyn says, yeah. Basically it.
Funny stuff.
I think Evelyn's downplaying the power of fashion.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. I think the clothes maketh the man.
I'm
almost certain Brian said that at one point.
Probably.
But I don't think we have much to say about it, do we?
I know nothing at all. I like it's unnecessary.
I will say though that having like red or pink trousers is definitely a hilarious trope.
Finally, we got our Tully and the Bully story. Eileen's got a dodgy cupboard door on Friday, but Sean can't look at it because he's going out with Frank later. And he also wonders why George hasn't been seen much lately. And she's very evasive about this. But when Sean and Frank go out, George skulks downstairs, and Eileen's saying, this is getting very annoying. You're skulking around all the time. You can't just avoid Frank forever. And so he ends up working with Todd by the end of the episode, doesn't he? Todd is the one that fixes the cupboard door, but he also says to George, we need to catch Frank doing some bullying if we want to prove that he is a bully. And that was it. So I guess we will have to wait and see what this plan is going to look like. I'd still like to think that Frankie isn't a bully anymore. Would you?
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Seems like he's changed. I'd like to think he's changed.
I think it would be a more powerful message to say that people can change.
Yeah, and I like Sean having a boyfriend, and I think that the guy that they've got playing Frank is a decent actor, and he could be quite an asset to the show. So to have him reveal that he's actually still bullying somebody would be a bit of a shame, really. So yeah, I hope that we find out that he has seen the error of his ways, but I don't know what could convince George that he has changed. Does he need like a certificate from the Pope or something?
I don't know. Does the Pope do that now?
Yeah,
or
the St. Francis of Assisi Award.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
That's fine. Okay, so we will find out that next week, I'm sure, what's going on with that. And that is it for this week's Coronation Street, which I thought was a fairly decent week. I've seen an awful lot of praise for this week on Twitter and Facebook and things.
It really I was kind of overjoyed. It felt like a bit of a return to form and like the most classic Corrie, especially on Wednesday.
Some of it were. Wednesday was the absolute highlight for me. But I saw after Monday's episode people saying, that was amazing, that was classic Corrie. And I finished Monday's episode saying, it was okay, it was fine. Rita and Audrey getting drunk together in the pub, fair enough. Friday's episode, it was okay. So I'm not going to go as high as everybody else. I don't think I could go any higher than, 3.5, I think. I'm going to give this 3.5 scannable grands out of 5. Sorry,
I was going to do that one.
Now? And there's plenty of other things that I'm sure you can think of. So 3.5 scannable grands for me. But Audrey is definitely my character of the week. I think Audrey's everybody's character of the week this week. It goes without saying, doesn't it? She was just fabulous on Wednesday's episode. Good job, Sue Nichols. Shame that you ruined it a little bit by being a bit cowy to Gail on Friday.
I'm going to give it 4 famous bums on seats behind ropes, which is actually more difficult to say than I thought.
4 famous bums on seats behind ropes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said it perfectly. Well
Thank
done.
you. Well, I couldn't have given it 3.5 famous bums. You don't want half a bum on your seat, do you?
You could have half a bum though, couldn't you? Because it goes down the middle quite neatly.
That's true. Character of the week, Gemma? Need I even ask?
Audrey.
Definitely Audrey. Nice one, Aud.
Everyone's favourite scannable gran.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I would also like to give this 3.5 Weatherfield Donkey Sanctuaries as my backup option as well, because still the idea that there's 2 Weatherfield Donkey Field
and
sanctuaries
they hate each other
does tickle me.
And one of them's nefarious.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
But no, I'm going with Scannable Grands. So that's it. Thank you everybody for listening to our street talk.